All right. Oh man. Oh, get this hair loose. All right, guys. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. I'm still slowly getting set up here. Oh man. Here we go. Hello. Good to see everybody. Good to be here. I think I have hopefully my music's not too loud, but I got a round of applause for me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind. All right. So today is a nice day. I think the week's going okay for me. Feeling good. It's the weekend. The weather's nice here in California. We have some nice cooler weather. I can wear a light jacket. The windows are open. The breeze is going through. There's clouds in the sky, which is like a rare thing in California. Usually we have just straight blue skies. You'll miss the clouds if you live out here, if you like clouds at least. Yeah, so feeling good. Here we are in this blender box. I'm in my blender corner, perfectly cut off from the outside world here. Oh man, let's see. Huh? Yeah, I had some lumbar support and it was too far up. I was at the edge of my seat. Make sure to take care of your lumbar support. All right. Let's see. We'll keep going here. Make sure my live stream is going good. It looks like it is going good. Let's make sure my chat's going okay. Hello. All right, chat's going good. Damn, there's like a 15-second delay when I type into the chat. But that's all good. Let's see if I can use the chat on the inside here. There we go. So that they're aware of what they're doing and they're making conscious choices. Current people. There we go.
Are you only on YouTube?
Yeah. I'm only streaming on YouTube today. I don't even get a lot of Twitch streamers anyway. So it's pretty upsetting. All right. There we go. Still going. Making sure the music's okay. There we go. Okay. I think we're getting set up here.
That's how it came out.
All right.
Okay, great. Now let's make it better.
Oh, Chrisums. Good to see you, Chrisums. We got a first timer here. Okay. I think I'll just get started here. Did my 5 minutes of diddling around. That's not a good term. Hanging out. So we're gonna start this process. All right. So. All right, guys, welcome to this this Blender live stream where we're going to be covering different sort of anime effects and materials within Blender. Ferd, good to see you. Another week. Glad you're in the chat here with me today. Let's hope that my stream does not crash today. I'm only streaming on YouTube, so hopefully if anything happens, I can retain the people that are watching and stuff. Anyway, so today we're going to be doing some anime effects. So I'll start off by saying that a lot of these techniques you can find online on YouTube if you just type in like Blender anime effects, Blender cartoon effects. I think effects is the keyword here. Somebody who's really popular on Blender, and by really popular, I mean he's pretty good, is this guy named Christoph Dedenne. Anyway, so Christoph does a lot of these tutorials where he makes procedural fire, procedural water textures, waterfalls. He even does clouds, which I found to be quite awesome. This like water splash, and a lot of these techniques he uses, right? So this live stream really is to go through and kind of like break down these techniques, kind of explain what's happening, because he does like some pretty quick tutorials. By quick I mean like 20 minutes, but for what you're doing in there, it's really good. I'll explain some different concepts that you should understand when you're making these materials, because you can follow his tutorials and get really good results and learn from it and stuff. But I'm doing this live stream really so if anybody has any questions, they can leave them in the chat so I can further explain something. Sometimes you're watching a tutorial, you don't know what something does, you don't know how something works, and the better and the more you understand how it works and how it functions, the easier it is for you to make it, and the easier it is for you to just make your own stuff when you understand how it works. So that's what I'm going to be going over today. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's start going over some of the stuff. Let me get set up here. Ferd, I hope you're doing well out there. You can hear me. Doing your thing out there. Doing some final setup here, guys, and then we'll get right started to it. All right. All right, guys. So the first thing we want to do is we're here. We're in the Blender scene. We're doing our thing. And you can see what I press here in the bottom. You can see that my screencast keys are on, so that's pretty good. So the first thing we want to do is let's erase the cube, and let's even erase the light here. We're going to keep the camera, and that's the only thing we're going to keep, right? So what we'll do is we are going to make a sphere, and we're going to start off with the sphere. We're going to start off with the most basic material and the basic of shapes. So let's do sphere, mesh, UV sphere, beautiful. This UV sphere, I want some more detail on it. So here, if you once you create it, at the bottom left, you can see you can click on this little button here, and you can have extra features, or extra options. So we got segments. We're gonna times everything by 2. So we'll put the little star, we'll put a 2, we'll hit tab, that will make it 64, and then we'll do same thing over here. Boom, boom. All right, and then we're gonna right click on here. We're gonna hit shade smooth. Also, we're gonna make sure that there's nothing here. For now. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we hit shade smooth. We have our smooth sphere. If we go to rendered mode, you can click here in the top right. You can hit Z, and this is how you change into your different render modes. The pie menus are really great. Susan, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here. Glad you are here. Hope everything's doing well for you over there in Tasmania, Australia. So hit Z, we'll go into rendered view, and you'll see that it's just gray, and that's just because there's no lights, there's no anything, so it's just matching the color of the world here. So some things I'm going to set up right now is I don't like this grid, so I'm going to take off the grid. Over here in our overlays, top right, you can click on this little arrow, you can take off the floor, and you can take off these lines here. We're going to keep our cursor, and if we press the numpad 1, you can see that we're looking at it from the front. Maybe I'll put one. Maybe I'll put the X and the Y. Maybe we'll just do those, so we can at least see the direction of our sphere here. So we got our sphere, and then the next thing we want to do is since these effects are gonna be like glowy effects and like energy and beams and stuff, let's make the world dark, right? So let's make our background, and we're gonna make it black. Great. So now we don't see anything. So that our world is set up, and we're gonna go to solid view, or yeah, solid view, but I'm gonna hit Z for doing it. Is C solid. I just want to be able to see it as I go, right? Okay. Jiraj, good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for stopping by. So we got our sphere here, and we're going to now set up our shader. So this is where we start getting into materials, guys. And I know materials, the node editor, can be kind of daunting. It can be kind of scary. It can be a lot. You know, there's a lot going on, and I'm gonna try and take my time and make my best effort to make this as simple as possible. And it's definitely okay if you don't understand some things that are going on. Just feel free to ask what's happening. But we're gonna set it up right now. We're gonna set it up so it's easier for you to ingest this information, right? So let's choose our object, our sphere, and I'm also gonna move the sphere into its own collection. So I'm gonna hit M while my mouse is over the viewport, new collection, and I'm gonna put in, I'm gonna put it in the effects panel. So effects. So that's gonna be its own thing there, and I'm gonna name the camera collection into utilities. This is where we're going to be putting our like empties. We're gonna be putting in anything that's like not a mesh that's gonna be used and stuff. We're gonna be putting in here, right? So we got camera, we got sphere. So go to sphere, go to the tab on the left here. It says material properties, and we already have a material put. So we're gonna select that material that's already here, and we're gonna call this energy. So energy .000. We're gonna have a lot of these, so make sure to name them, right? And we'll also name our sphere the same thing. So sphere energy 000, right? So now we have this. Let me lower this. What we have here is a principal shader. Is kind of like the material that it comes with and stuff. So we want to click on the principal shader, and then we're going to start doing our setup. So all we're left with is this output node. So there's a couple things you should have on when you go into this material, right? So if you go to the preferences add-ons, don't forget to turn on Node Wrangler right here. So type in Node Wrangler, comes with Blender. Make sure that's selected because we're going to be using shortcuts that make this whole process a lot easier. So make sure your Node Wrangler's attached, right? All right, so now what we're going to do is if you know in Blender, if you hit the Q key, this is your quick favorites, right? And your quick favorites is where you can add different options, different settings that you can easily access. And that's what we're going to do in the shader editor. And we're going to do this. Let me remove all my stuff from my stuff here. Remove from quick favorites. Okay, so when you hit Q, you can see that you have quick favorites, and we're going to be adding like 5 or 6 nodes that you're going to be using throughout this whole process. So you don't even have to worry about the other nodes necessarily, and we're going to put them all in our quick favorites so we can make it less daunting and less like there's so much. Because when you hit Shift A in the node editor, like you have all these inputs and outputs and shaders and textures and colors and this and vector converters and scripts and groups and layouts, you know. And I think this is what can turn off a lot of people from going into the node editor, because there's just so much going on here. So we're gonna be adding some stuff into our quick favorites that we're gonna be using at all times, right? So hit Shift A. The first one we want to add is go to color, mix RGB, right click it and hit add to quick favorites. Boom. mix RGB. Another one that we're going to be adding, hit Shift A. So I'm going to write this up to here. Quick favorites. So mix RGB is that we're going to be adding. That's one. Another one that we're always going to use, hit Shift A, go to converter, go to color ramp, right click, add to favorites. So color ramp is going to be another one. Color ramp. Add that one to your quick favorites. So see, when you hit Q, you can already see them here. Mix RGB, color ramp. Another one that we're going to be adding is go to input, Fresnel or Fresnel. It's Fresnel. But it's fun to pronounce the S because, I mean, why not? Why not go do that? So add Fresnel to your quick favorites. So let's type that in. Fresnel. Right, so there we go. We got these three. Fresnel, color ramp, mix RGB. Another one that we're going to add in here is shader emissions. We're going to be using emissions a lot. So add in emissions. Okay, another one that we're going to be adding or using a lot is under texture. Go to Voronoi texture, right click Voronoi texture. So let's see if I can, how do you even spell this? I don't even know. Shift A, how do you spell Voronoi texture? Texture, Voronoi texture, Voronoi texture. Gerard says, yeah, I believe it takes a couple tries and just spending some quality time familiarizing yourself with experimenting with nodes if you're a beginner. Exactly. At least that's how I was for me. For compositing nodes, still don't fully get them, but at least they aren't alien to me or scary anymore. Yeah, exactly what Gerard says. So hopefully this process of adding things into your quick favorites can help familiarize yourself with the ones that are important. So anyway, Voronoi texture, that's a good one. Another texture that we're going to be adding is Musgrave texture. So hit that into your quick favorites. Musgrave textures. So Musgrave texture. Okay, so Musgrave texture. Let's see. Another one we're going to be adding is, let's see, color ramp, vector math. Another, go to shader, do mix shader. So do a mix shader here, add to favorite. So mix shader. Great. Did I even add it myself? Hold on. Shader. Yes, I did. Mix shader. Okay. So we got mix shader. We're almost done, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're at 7. Let's do a couple more and then we'll stop. Do a, let's see. Should have wrote these down before the stream, but we're doing it on the fly, guys. Mix RGB, scripts, blah blah blah. Another one would be texture coordinates, and I think that's it. Texture coordinates. Texture coordinates? How do you even spell that? Coordinates. All right, cool. So now we should have our quick favorites when we hit Q. I wish they were in alphabetical order. Wait, are they? No, mix RGB's at the top. This is not in alphabetical order, and I kind of wish it was. I wonder if there's a way to organize your quick favorites. But yeah, when you hit quick favorites, you have everything that you're going to be using like 90% of the time, guys. Like 90% of the time, this is what we're going to be using and stuff, okay? So make sure to add these to your quick favorites so that you can continue and we can follow along and we can move forward with this stuff. Gerard says, what does feel alien to me though is texture node editor. Like, I know it's there for use for textures, but I still don't get the functionality too much. You know what's funny? Texture editor is the one that I use the least. So I'll definitely look into that and see, I don't know, how we can edit some textures. We're going to be dipping into some textures today. So Maybe I can incorporate that in another stream. Okay, so we got our texture editor. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, anything that's gonna require an energy, a glow, right? We're gonna use the emission shader. You can always hit Shift A, it's under shaders, but we have it in our quick menus. So put it in your quick menu. So hit Q and we'll do emissions, right? So here's our emission. We added it there. Now we want to connect this, right? So obviously we can connect this the normal way where we can click this tiny little green dot here, and you're gonna get your mouse lined up. I know I'm exaggerating here, but this is what it feels like sometimes when you're doing this a lot. You're like, get this tiny little green dot and you connect it to this tiny little green dot here. So the Node Wrangler helps you with this, right? So what you want to do is, let's see if I remember this off the top of my head, is holding Shift and then right clicking. Nope, it is Control. Okay, no, it's Alt. So to connect different nodes together, right? So if we had, let's say, multiple nodes here, if you hold Alt and you right click on the node you want to connect and drag it, it'll automatically connect it, and you can see it starts connecting them all wildly. But this is a good way to connect nodes, so you don't have to go in and scroll in and try to touch this little dot here, this tiny little dot, and connect it to the material and stuff, and connect it to the material output. So just Alt, right click, connect, boom. So just remember that, guys, just Alt, right click, connect, and that's how you can connect different nodes, right? All right, so we got our emissions on here, right? So let's see what that looks like. Let's go to rendered mode. Boom, it's just showing up as white. And let me take off some of this stuff on the screen. That's a little much right now. Annotations. I guess that's good. We're gonna take off the navigator for now. I'm trying to clear up some screen space. Gerard says it's called Lazy Connect. So yes, Alt, right click the node, boom, Lazy Connect. So make sure to utilize that. So right now we have our scene, we have our light, and like it's just a white circle. Like this isn't looking like anything, right? So right now we have this at maxed out white, right? But it to me, right, it looks a little gray. And this is something that you always have to pay attention to, is your color space. So when you get your node editor, when you open up Blender, the color space that it's in is used for like realistic lighting. So since we're working on more cartoony stuff, go to this tab here, which is called Render Properties, Color Management, and change your View Transform to Standard. And now look at it, boom, it went from white to like this washed out gray to white. And that's the difference between, you know, these two different ones. So we want to use Standard. So make sure that that's selected. Super importante. And now we got this pure white that matches this pure white. Boom, that's the first step, right? The second thing we want to do, right, so we can already start looking at something cool, right, is go and turn on bloom. So boom, we got bloom, and you didn't really notice the difference, or I didn't barely notice the difference. So let's see what this looks like. Also, I'm gonna get rid of this header here. We can always get it back. Okay, so we have the bloom that turn on and off. You can barely tell difference, but the way that you can really tell a difference, right, the way that you can really see it is if you crank up the emissions. And now look at that. Now this looks like just a ball of light emanating outwards, like, ah. Obviously we can change these to different colors to radiate differently, and we got a glowing ball, right? So this is already good if you wanted a glowing orb in the space, right, in the area, right? So cool. So that's step number one, right? So now what we want to do is we want to be, because the first thing we're going to be trying to make is like kind of like a shield, like if you've seen any sort of anime or in like superhero movies, when they do a shield that kind of glows transparently in front of them or around them, kind of like an orb of protection. So that's what we're going to start building off That's the material we're gonna start making, because everything else is kind of based off this material, right? So we got this glowing orb. So the first thing you want to do is, if you have Node Wrangler installed or activated, which you should click on the material, on the emissions, excuse me, the emissions, and hit Control T, right? So what this does is it adds these 3 nodes that we're gonna be using: texture coordinates, mapping, and image textures. So if we undo this, right, you can see that there's nothing there. Let me move this, see if that helps. There's nothing there. Control T. Oh my god. I had them both selected. That wasn't good. Select just emissions. Control T. It adds these 3 nodes. Okay. So these 3 nodes are added, and right now, the only ones we really need, right, are the texture coordinates and this mapping node, right? Very good stuff. What we don't want is this image texture. So this image texture has no texture in it, and that's why it's a none. But what we're going to be doing today, right? What we're going to be doing in this tutorial is making procedural textures, so not using any textures. So if you have the Node Wrangler installed, here's another quick tip. If you click on the image texture, the node that you want to change, right? And you can actually click on the node and change it to whatever other node that you want. And I believe that's with Shift S. So if you click on the node and you hit Shift S, right, you can see it says switch type to. So right now we're switching this image texture, and we're gonna change it to, right, is color ramp. So let's change that to color ramp. So click on it, Shift S, and usually that's under quick favorites. We're gonna have to select it here. I just wanted to show you this type of changing of nodes with the Node Wrangler. So that's going to be under converter, because we're going to convert these values, right? Converter to color ramp. Boom, we're back to white. Beautiful, right? So now we got our white color. Obviously, we don't see any of this dark color here, and you can see if we move where this line is, you can see where the black starts to creep in. So let me go to the front, right? Technically there's no light in our scene. It's not like there's a lamp out here to the right. This is just how this is being textured, right? And the way that this works is this texture is using the UVs. This might be a little over your head, but I'll try and simplify it. Basically, this is telling it, the texture coordinate node is telling this color ramp where it should put the dark colors, where it should put the light colors. And that's all this is doing right here, right? And these are the different types of, let's say, mappings for that. So right now we have UV, which is good. Let's go to object. Let's change it to object. And you can see, you can try out different ones here, right? So we got object, we got UV, we got generated. You can see how that's affecting it. And that's good. Can be a little confusing, but it's good to know, guys. UV, boom, okay. Great stuff, right? So we're gonna put this back to normal, keep it at white. Just wanted to explain that a little bit. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make it so that the outside's kind of brighter and the inside is transparent, like a real shield, like a real glowing shield, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a mix shader, right? Because we're going to mix between 2 different things. We're mixing between transparency and we're mixing between emissions, right? So hit Q if you added it to your quick favorites. If not, Shift A and it would be under shader. So hit Q, mix shader, and we're going to put it between this connection and the output. And this output obviously is, you know, what it ends up being, the material. So this is our material here, right? So we have our mix shader, and what did I say? We want to mix between transparency and emissions. So those are 2 types of things that are going on here. So hit Shift A. We didn't add this to a quick favorites. Maybe we should, but hit Shift A, go to shader, and I'm gonna add it to my quick favorites right now. Transparent shader. See? Right click, add to quick favorites. So if I hit Q, here's my transparent shader, right? So here's our transparent shader. Nothing really happens, right? And let me see if I can bring up the the background color here for you to be able to see. Nothing really has changed. Nothing's transparent. It's just white. Doesn't make any sense. What's happening, right? So what we want to do is, since we're in Eevee, we have to tell it that there's transparency in it, right? So if you go to the material, right, we're at energy 000. If you go to settings, we want blend mode to be changed to alpha blend, right? And now you can see that and make sure to put this to alpha clip, the shadow, right? Okay, cool. So now that we have blend mode to alpha blend, now it's taking into consideration this transparency here, right? And you can see that it's taking into account, because the way the factor works is if it's all the way to 0, it's taking only in consideration the emissions, number 1 here on the slot. If it goes all the way to 1, it's taking into consideration this second one, the transparent, and that's the second one here. So 1 is the second option, 0 is the first option, halfway is halfway transparent, right? So see, you can see how it's being affected here. All right, 0 straight up emissions, 1 transparency. But what we actually want, right, what we actually want is we want the outside to be white, right, or to have emissions, and we want the inside to be transparent, right? And then the way that we do that, so what I'm going to do right now, we're gonna disconnect this emissions. I didn't want to overcomplicate this. So you can see this goes with this disconnected. We'll use this later. So we're going between emissions, transparent. So I'll say it one more time: 0 emissions, 1 transparent, 0 emissions. That's how this is how this mix shader works. It's mixing between these two shaders, right? So we want to tell it like, oh, we want it to be transparent in the middle and glowing, and we want it to use transparency, this shader, in the middle, and we want it to use emissions on the end. And the way that, and what we use to do that, right, is the Fresnel, right? So let me see if I could do a quick Google here to explain to you what Fresnel is. See if there's any good indicators here. All right, so the best explanation I got here, right, would be, so when light is hitting something, right, the Fresnel is the light that's hitting at the edge, right? So I'm not trying to get too complicated here, but I'm trying to explain it. It's hitting at the edge, right? So if the world is blue, right now this is full Fresnel, and it's basically edge lighting. Let me not overcomplicate this. Maybe I'm explaining this too much. It's basically edge lighting, and just know that that's what we're doing here. We're doing edge lighting, right? So let's bring in our Fresnel. I'm going to show you something else here, right? So if we hit Shift A, Fresnel is going to be under input here. But let's remember, if you don't want to get overwhelmed by that, hit Q if you added it to your quick favorites, and hit Fresnel, right? So before we add it, right, before we add it to our mix shader, if you ever want to know, right, if you ever want to know what a shader is doing, how it's coloring your thing, right, if you hold Control, Shift, and left click, you can see that it creates a viewer for us, and the viewer is just in emissions, right? But this viewer shows us in black and white values what it's doing here, right? So you can see that the edge is being lit up, and this is weird, right? Because there's like this weird line going on here, and that has to do with these texture coordinates. Let's see if I can fix that. Let me test something out. Ugh, excuse me. I'm just doing some testing here. Something's not working the way that I think it should be working. But anyway, going back, this is so neat what we can do here. Okay, So anyway, so let's go back to our front. So what this is doing is giving us edge lighting, right? So we're gonna put, now you see that it's lighting up the edges. There's light here and this white color here. Also, there's something I need to fix here. I don't know exactly what it is. Okay, so that's what it was. So instead of the blend mode, right, to alpha blend, I would have swore it was alpha blend. We have to change it to alpha clip. Right? This is the way it should be acting, right? So sorry about that. Go to your settings in your materials, make sure your blend mode is on alpha clip. That was my issue, right? So, you know, going back to our material here. No, okay, so yeah, so anyway, so control left click, you can see that what's happening is the white is on the edge and the dark is in the middle. And then we could change it for now. We could change it really dark, right? Look how this white is all around the edge and how the dark is in the middle. So the way that you have to think about this factor here is anywhere where there is darkness, it's going to use one of the shaders, and anywhere that there's white, it's going to use the other shader. That's what this Fresnel is doing. That's all it's doing. It's making a mask for your materials for the way that they're working, right? So we will add in the factor now that I changed it to how I want it. Let's do like right at the edge. Let's do something light like this. Boom, 1.5 or 1.15. You can see that it's dark in the middle. Nice little gradient at the edge there, right? So now we connect this to our factor, and we can do this with our lazy connect. What was it? It was Alt right click connect. See, connected, and then Alt right click, and then we connect it. It added it to the volume, and that's because this this shader's here. So what, instead of doing that, just can do Control Shift click, and this is how you can click between all the different nodes that you want to see. Okay, cool. So now we see that this is not working the way that we want it to work, right? So let's diagnose this. All right, so let's go and let's add a color ramp in between this. When you're in doubt with like some materials, just add one of these color ramps. So hit Q, we'll hit color ramp, and we'll do this together. We'll diagnose our issues. Oh man, what is happening? There it is. So what we want to do is add, let's start organizing this. Okay. All right, so to go back on this, you can see that the Fresnel is making a black and white mask. We're then adding it to the mix shader, connecting it to the dot, nothing's happening, adding in a color ramp, and then messing with this white color. Is it white? Oh, we're flipping it. Okay, there we go. So this is how we get the outer edge to be white. And you know, I was looking at this, right, and I was trying to think, like, right before I changed this to alpha clip, but what if it's back on alpha blend? It's so weird. There we go. Anyway, so this is how we're making kind of like an orb. So what's taking into account right now is that the center is transparent and the outside is glowing. So the outside is using emissions and the inside is using transparent. And that's how we're making this outer glow here. So let's add in an object here. Let's do object, just so we could see the middle. So we'll add in a monkey. Bring it down. All right, and this is something that I wanted to make note by adding the monkey here. You see that the object in here, the monkey, is not being lit up, right? And that's because when you add in bloom is kind of like a filter. It's being added in afterwards, and it's not actually lighting up our scene. It's not lighting up our objects. It's not lighting up anything. The bloom is almost, it's just a filter that's being added on top, and it's not an actual light source. And that's something to keep in mind, because you can see like, oh man, this is glowing so much. Why isn't this in the middle here being lit up? So like I can add in a light. So let's add it in a lamp. So I'd show you what I'm talking about. Let's add in a lamp, or a lamp. It's called lights now. They used to be called lamps in older Blender. So we'll add in a point light, bring it to the front, you know, and you can see that this light is what's actually affecting the monkey now, right? So just remember that bloom is a filter effect. It's just being added on afterwards. It's not lighting up your scene technically, right? Just a filter to make your images look better or look cool, or you know, things like that, right? So when you're like doing your lighting for this type of stuff, you technically would have to light your characters, right, to like the color, and then you can add in your own colors here, make it super bright type of situation, and then give it that illusion that it's being lit up, right, with this blue lamp. So that's something to make note of, right? Something to think about. Okay, let's go back to our material. So before we continue, I want to diagnose something here that's kind of bothering me. So let me figure out. Jiraj says, but emissions should, right? Emissions, no. So emissions, technically it's not. Look, because if I turn this off, you can't see the monkey anymore. Emissions is not, when a material has emissions, it's not lighting up anything in Eevee. If you had an emissions material in cycles, that's when mesh lights are affecting things, right? But in Eevee, it's like a game engine. They're not using mesh lights. The lights that you're using are going to be these lights. Eevee's kind of like a cheat, right? That video games use all the time. And with the cheating, it doesn't include mesh lights. Mesh lights only work in cycles. Everything else, you're going to be using a point light. Because yeah, look at the object. Emissions, technically this rim is emitting stuff. And maybe I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong here, but like even if I bring Susan outwards, I turn off the light. You see, this is glowing and it's not lighting up. It's not lighting up the monkey at all. See, emissions mesh lights only work in cycles. Okay, so let's put on this light, give the illusion of of this happening out here. And let's keep going. But let me diagnose something first. Input. Instead of using Fresnel, I'm going to use the Fresnel in this layer weight here. I just want to see something. Yeah, but I thought there was some setting somewhere to fake it. I think what you're talking about, Jiraj, would be light probes, and using light probes and setting up a whole light probe system to fake that sort of light. But light probes is like a whole different, it's like a whole different extra step that to complicate your scenes and stuff. Obviously you can use it, and one day maybe I'll do a tutorial on it and stuff. But I think for like beginners and stuff, yeah, you would fake it with light probes is what you. So definitely Google that if any of you are interested in faking it that way. The way I fake it is I use lights, and that's how I fake it. But if Jiraj, if you know of a way, please write it in the chat. I may be missing something, but from my experience, that's how you would fake it, with light probes. Okay, so while we're here, let me do a little setup here. So if anybody has any questions, the 5 of you in the chat, please ask it right now. I'm going to be testing out something before I continue explaining this stuff. I just need to make sure I know where I'm heading here. Yeah, what I'm doing right now is I'm just testing out some different node setups so I can continue teaching in like a more of a linear way that makes sense. But right now you should have learned about Fresnel, the mix shader, color ramps, oh man, I'm just doing a lot of testing here. What I'm testing right now, guys, just so I don't stay too quiet on here. What I'm testing right now is I'm trying to figure out the better blend mode. Right now it seems to be alpha clip, because alpha blend kind of gives me like this, like it's like this is really unexpected behavior for me. So I think it's alpha clip, but I'm making sure that I'm not just doing something wrong here. Okay. All right, let's go back and let me reset everything up. I guess we're doing alpha clip. For now, resetting up, guys. Just curious about how you can make some pretty interesting effects. This is fun. Anyway, okay, so we got mix shader, got our Fresnel. There we go. Layer weight. Excuse me. Oof. Okay, let's continue. And there we go. Okay, so let's go over our materials here. As I just deleted them all. What am I doing? All right, so there's two different inputs that I like to mess around with. Also, I would say, guys, really play around with the blend mode here. Oh, I think I know. I think I know the issue, guys. I think I figured it out. Okay, I just remembered. I think I remember. I think I remember. Hopefully this is the answer, then I can explain it. Oh, sorry for the hiccups, guys, but this is how you diagnose it. Sometimes it gets really frustrating. You just sit here like, how the heck do I do this? There we go. All right, time to explain to make sure. Okay. All right, let's go. All right, guys. So now that we're going through the material, something I wanted to explain is I was having some weird material stuff happening, right? And the issue for me is when I had this material, right? And I was, let's say, on Alpha Clip, and I would go around it, it would have some like weird lines in it. So, or Alpha Blend, I'm sorry. It would have some weird lines, and what was happening is that I had show backface on here, and show backface shows the, I guess, the back half of the meshes and stuff. Let's see if I can replicate the issue. Now that I don't have it anymore, it's gonna be funny replicating it. Guess it's not. All right. All right, turn on the light. All right. So what we'll do is we'll go through the material now. So we got the material output. We got the mix shader, right? That's mixing between the emissions and the transparency. And we're using either a Fresnel or a layer weight that has a Fresnel option at the top here, right? So if we hit Shift A, we hit input, there's a layer weight. Make sure to add that to your quick favorites. And you can mess with both of these when you're making this orb, right? So we have the orb, we have the shield, and you can see that you can mess around with this Fresnel here, and you can make it brighter and darker. You can also put the Fresnel from the layer weight that makes it a lot less strong, but you can see how bright it gets. You can even do facing. Facing has like a whole different effect. It's like the way wherever you're facing it, I think it stays absolutely the same. So you got that, but I'm going to use the Fresnel from the layer weight here and just mess with the factor to make it as the brightness that I want. And then we're going to mess with the color ramp here. All right, so this is the basis of all the materials, right? This is of all the materials that are going to come from this, and how we're going to make these like sort of like anime-esque effects, right? So here's our basic setup, the entire thing, right? Boom, boom, boom. All right. So one way that I want to add some like energy textures onto this shield. I want to add some energy orbs to this shield, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a texture, right? So I'm gonna hit Q and we're gonna do Voronoi texture, right? And then just so you can see what this looks like, we're gonna hit Control Shift and click on it. And we can see this texture that's on the orb, right? So here's the orb. This is the texture that we have. And this is the texture that we're gonna be adding to our shader here, our glowing shader, right? So what we're gonna do is what this is doing right here, it's making the transition of the outside being bright and the inside being transparent. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in this texture to add in, I don't know, some cool looking effect. So what we'll do is we'll do a mix RGB, and what a mix RGB does is it mixes two different textures, two different images and stuff. So if you added it to your quick favorites, hit Q and do mix RGB. It's also in the Shift A color tab here, mix RGB, boom, and then we'll put our Voronoi texture at the bottom here. And you can see that it's added in, right? You can see that the texture is in there. Let me make sure this light. It's getting our orb, okay. And then okay. So there's our Voronoi texture giving the light here. And it looks pretty good, right? But if you wanted some more control over it, adding in a color ramp, so Q color ramp, Q it, color ramp, you can now affect the different orbs and bubbles that are in it, right? So here's some like interesting effects that you can do, right? Right, and you're like, okay, that's kind of neat, but like, you know, it's not moving or anything. Also, in the Voronoi texture, you can change it to different things, like different options. So instead of Euclidean, you can use this just called Chebyshev. And then also then mess with the color ramp. It makes like these cool little orbs and stuff. But right now we're just gonna do, oh, there's even like this diamond one. That's fun. Okay, let's go back to Euclidean. All right, so we have this cool effect going on. It's like little orbs. It's cool. But you know, right now it's not doing anything, right? So what we want to do is add some movement to it. And also we can make it bigger and smaller. So here's like, if you do it like really small, it can have a more realistic effect. But if you have it really tiny, you can have like, I don't know, like these little orb textures on here, which could be what you want. Maybe that's what you want. Anyway, so let's make it bigger. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the Voronoi texture and we're gonna add some movement, and we do that by clicking on it and hitting Control T. And this adds a mapping node and a texture coordinates, right? So we have our mapping node, and what we're gonna move here, right, is the location, and we'll do the location of the Y. And you can see that there's some movement there. You could do location of the Y. Actually, you could do any of these movements. You could do location of the Z. It looks like it's being animated upwards, downwards. If you're going the other way, you could move it forward and back. This one looks like the most random. And then you can move it side to side, left, right. You can even rotate it too. Like this could just rotate around in this sphere here. Rotate it on the Y. It rotated on the X, right? But we want this to be like automatic, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a very simple script here. But first, what we want to do is we want to, let's say we want to move it on the Y. I think Y gives it the more interesting look here, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna right click. We're gonna click on the Y and we're gonna add in an expression here, right? So we're gonna do the pound sign. This is very simple, guys. This is the only one you have to know, okay? So the pound sign, all it tells it is that it's changing it to a driver, right? That's what that pound sign means. Or you know, I don't know. Actually, let me know how where you're from, like, and how. What do you guys call this symbol? Is it the hashtag, the pound key, the crosshatch, the tic-tac-toe? Anyway, so you're gonna use the hashtag, And you're gonna type in frame, right? And what frame is, right? Frame is just it's a variable that's built into Blender, and the number that frame becomes is whatever frame that you're on, right? So if you're in frame 20, the word frame is actually being turned into the frame number. So it'll be actually, you know, hashtag frame, but if I'm on frame 20, what it's really reading is hashtag 20, hashtag 21, 22, whatever frame you're on, right? So we're gonna do that. Hashtag frame, hit enter. Now it turns purple, right? You can see that we're on frame 1, and you can see we're frame 1 here. So this number's a 1, right? But when we hit play, you can see that it's rotating super quickly, and it's just way too fast. When I hit pause, look, I'm on frame 127, and this is on frame 127, right? So we want it to go a lot slower. So we'll do frame, and we'll do a slash, or we're going to do divide, right? And we're going to do divided by 10, right? So we'll do it slower. That is still way too fast. So we're going to do divided by 100. There we go. Now we got like this movement going on, which I like very much. Spitfire, good to see you, man. Good. Thanks for stopping by. Especially, I think it's late night over there. I appreciate it. Going through this material stuff. All right, so we got the material here. And it's going, and it's moving, and the effect is there, right? So cool, we have this. Put it to the side. We don't have to worry about it now. We can affect the material with this color ramp, so we can just mess around with it more. Like if we just put these dots here, you see that it's like a little bubbly, you know. We could just make them into circles, and just like really mess around with this. Obviously have fun, do what you want. What I like is to put it at like really small levels. So let's put it like this, like maybe 2. The legend Spitfire. All right, cool. So we have the effect here happening, going, moving, feeling good, and we're mixing it, right? Oh, I forgot. Right now we're mixing. What we're mixing is, remember that 0 is the first input, 1 is the second input, right? So let's put it to halfway. We want to mix it halfway through. So let's put the factor to 0.5. Maybe that's like too much. How about taking down the clamp? There we go. Right? And with this mix RGB, other things that you can do is you could hit mix and you could do add. See what that does. Doesn't do much. We could do subtract or multiply, I should say. And then we have even like a brighter effect on the center here. And it's like it's really glowing. I did some Spitfire says I did some fun resonant jiggly wobbly effects with grease pencil the other day. Nice. Were you using like the wiggly modifiers, or are you saying that you like hand drew the wigglies? All right, so there we go. That's moving. We got this going. Cool. Looking dandy. So then obviously we can affect how this looks. The brightness of the emissions. We could change the color of the emissions here. This is all affected by the emissions color here. Yeah, having it bright, we got an evil orb here, right? So let's see if I can make this color a little bit more interesting, and instead of it being one color, it could be multiple colors. So I'm gonna add in another ramp. So hit Q for your quick favorites. Do a color ramp, and we'll hit the color ramp in here. And right now it only made it into black and white. So let's add some different colors here. Let's add like my favorite cotton candy colors. We'll do some blue, like a baby blue, and maybe like a pink, right? And right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on constant because I want to see the difference on where it happens. And it looks like it happens immediately, right? So let's add in, as we get more and more complicated, we're going to hit Control T on color ramp. Actually, scratch that. We're going to just hit Q and add in a texture coordinate. And I'm going to put it on generated here. Okay, so we got like this orb thing going on. So if we put it back to like B-spline, you can see we can have a nice transitional effect on the orb and in its colors and stuff. So let's keep moving this as we keep getting more and more complicated. Something that you should add to your quick favorites is mapping. So we'll hit Shift A and we'll go to vector mapping, hit right click, add to quick favorites. So now when you hit Q, hit mapping, and we'll hit it right there, right? So just so we can see what's happening here, because right now it could be a little difficult to see, right? Is we're gonna change this to constant again, so we can see the real divide that's happening. And then we're gonna hit hold shift and click on the emissions. Ooh. So we can see what's happening with these colors. You can see it's going through, and you can see we can move the colors here. We can also rotate the colors. Oh man, this is weird. Let's scratch that. We're gonna go back to the normal amount. We're gonna make it bright. And we're gonna change the different types of mapping. There's generated. Let's see if object does anything cool. A lot of this is playing around, guys. You can see that it's cutting it at half again. We could do UVs, you know. And also what we could do, instead of doing texture coordinates on the color ramp, oh, Spitfire's like feeling this, the pink gradient. Yes. So instead of using a texture coordinate, let's actually use, you see how it just changes back and forth? Let's actually use a Fresnel. Let's go Q Fresnel, and we'll add in the Fresnel here. There we go. So now we can see that the pink is on the outside and the blue's on the inside. And you can see that it's this harsh line, but that's why what we're going to do is just change this back to B-spline. Now we have a gradient from the middle to the outside, right? So we have pink on the outside, blue on the inside, and we can use the Fresnel to change the two different colors. And that's how we can add in some different types of variants in that, right? Because without this, it would look like this. Just strong pink color. But if we add in our mapping, we got a nice gradient, right? And let's see if we can flip the gradient. Let's see if that looks better. Maybe the blue on the outside looks better. The Fresnel. The line's still a little harsh here, so let's see if I can, you know, and this is a weird way to be using the mapping, guys. Like, this is not like a normal way of using this, but that's what you know, you don't have to follow these rules, you know. You could just, oh, actually what I'm doing wrong here, and nobody caught it, luckily for me, is that this mapping should go before the color ramp. There we go. This is better. This is the real way of using it. There we go. We got the bright colors. We can mess around with the pink. This gradient. For now, another thing we can do with this mapping node is add in a layer weight, which has a Fresnel on it. This gives it kind of like a weird texture there. There we go. And, you know, obviously play around with this stuff. I'm just going to keep moving now, but just know that this is here. So I'm just going to pick a color that I like. And we're going to go from there. We're going to do this. There we go. We got pink and purple going. All right. So let's try. See, nodes looks complicated because you add in little things one at a time that make sense, and they still make sense, and then it just starts to get bigger and bigger. All right, so let me just organize this. so it's not as scary looking. There we go. All right, cool. So we got our gradient going. We got like this orb shield stuff going. Looking pretty sweet. Pink and whatever. We have a Fresnel or our gradient. We can move in our gradient to be stronger or less strong. You know, I'll just leave it at 0. What am I doing? I'm gonna hit save. And let's see if I can organize some of this stuff here, right? So I'm gonna put this in a frame, right? So I'm gonna hit Shift A, and I forget what the shortcut is for this, but if I hit Shift A, do frame. Oops. I'm gonna select this, now hit Shift A and hit frame. Oh, never mind. Does it not? If anybody knows the shortcut for framing things here. So I'm gonna make this frame here, just so this makes sense, right? So I'm gonna add in there we go. So here's the frame. I'm gonna name this something. So if you hit the click on the frame, we can make this a big font here, and we're gonna call this mask, because I want this to make sense. It's a mask. Texture mask. Okay, cool. So we got this orb going on, we got the texture mask, and then we got this frame, right? So we're gonna frame this. We're gonna call this color, and we're gonna add this to it. Oops. Add all this to it. We're gonna call this color. Gonna call it color. Gonna make it big. Eevee's the bomb. I've been using Blender nonstop professionally for the past few weeks, doing 2D, 3D previous boards. Eevee is so great. Yes, really helps sell the cinematography. 100%. I agree, Spitfire, and it utilizes all the cool like fancy effects like bloom and all that stuff that like a layman's person would just, they see it and they're like, I know it. It looks beautiful. It looks great. Instead of showing them like blobs and not blobs, I should say, like, you know, mock-ups and gray, and you know, like us artists, we see it and we're like, we know what that's could potentially look like, but like to somebody with the money, they don't know. They want to see this. They want to see this Eevee. They want to see this glow. They want to see it. They want to see it flourish. You know, they want to see the pizzazz. They want to be able to show it to their friends on what they're working on. Okay. So we're here. We're doing it. All right, so we have our color, we have our textured mask and stuff. So for the 5 of you out there, for the people watching afterwards, now we're gonna start dipping into some interesting territory here that I think a lot of people don't cover when it comes to these sort of effects. All right, and this is where it's really gonna tip it over, right? It's really gonna tip it over to the top, right? If you look up these effects, you see that they use a lot of modifiers, which we're going to be doing, to make interesting looking broken up effects, right? So let's break down some mildly what could seem to be complicated stuff, right? So let's get out of this mode real quick, and we're going to go into this regular orb mode, right? So here we go. What we want to do first is we want to be able to go and mask out some of these vertices, right? We want to make them invisible, so there's like holes in this shield here, and we want the holes because we're going to make it more of like an energy flame ball, more than it being like a shield to protect yourself from. Because right now we already have the shield. We got it. Here's the shield, you know. You can add more texture to it. I already showed you how to do the textures. You can add more light. You can add different distortions. The materials here. This is the baseline material, right? But what we want is actually something that like, I don't know, like moves, and then maybe it's like Dragon Ball Z energy or like anime flame punch energy and stuff. So this is what we're gonna do, right? To do this, we have to make some of these vertices invisible, and we want to be able to not have to pick every single vertex we want invisible. It takes a lot of time to choose that. We want it to be done automatically, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to our sphere. We want to go into let's see how this is called. Let me hit this. Okay. Object data properties. I forget the names of these tabs all the time, guys. So go to object data properties, and we're going to make a vertex group. And a vertex group is essentially a folder or a group of all the vertices that we want to affect, right? We want to affect them all of them. That's what we want to do, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to edit mode. We're going to select all of them, and we're going to hit plus sign here. That makes a new vertex group. We'll call this, just for the sake of naming stuff, energy.000, right? And we're going to hit assign, right? So what we're doing is we're assigning these vertices to this group, right? So if I hit assign, you know that it's been assigned by hitting deselect and select, and you can see that it's selected. You know, and if I did this another way, right? If I just selected, oh, I want these vertices, and I want these vertices, and I want this vertice and this vertices, then I hit assign here. Boom, 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 right? And I hit deselect and select. Oh, it didn't work. Let's try this again. Assign. Select, deselect. Never mind. So I guess maybe this is a glitch on my end, but you'll have to make a new one. So if we make another group, and we'll call this, group. Now we select the ones that we want. Now this should work, right? Assign. Deselect, select. Okay, so just make sure to make new groups. See, and you can see that this group, like, I'm able to select. Oh, I want to select only those parts of the mesh. Deselect, select, right? Or I want to select all of it. Boom, I select all of it. Right now, you're like, this doesn't seem helpful or important, but I promise you, this is gonna be so helpful in the future. So we did it. We have a group, has all our vertices in it. Now we can use this information to affect things differently, right? So let me show you an example. So if I go to, actually, let me make a second group, and we're going to call this half. And this is for demonstration purposes. You don't have to do this if you're following along. I'm going to select only half the vertices. Right here, I'm going to assign the half. I'm going to deselect, select. You see it's only selecting half, right? Great. Now, if you go into, and I'm going to do this in this solid view, and I'm going to put a matte cap on this so we can really see the details here. Okay, cool. And we're also going to make the monkey invisible for now. Okay, cool. So if we go to our modifiers, right? In modifiers, there's usually options to choose a vertex group. And this is where we do it, guys. So let's say we wanted to do, for example, a displace, right? Displace. We're going to add in a new texture just real quick. We'll just hit new texture and we'll add in clouds, right? So look, let's go back to our modifiers. All right, so you can see here that it's being affected. Oh, that looks pretty cool though, right? Like an orb and stuff. The mist is the S. It's the shit here. Looks so dense. It's great. Yes. Approval from Spitfire. I love it. I love when we love things together. So yeah, so we got the displace modifier, and it's affecting everything, right? It's affecting every single thing, right? But look at this. In the displace modifier, we have a vertex group. And if you remember, energy.000 selects it all. So right when I select them all, oh look. All the sphere is all the sphere is being affected by the displace, right? But remember, I made another group, and the group is half. And now look, I have half the sphere that's being affected by the modifier, and you can use this on a lot of different modifiers. You can even choose a displacement map. Oh, not display, subsurface divide, right? And you can go to advance. Oh, I thought there was one here. Use custom normals. Never mind. It's only it's not on all the modifiers, as we just proved. Let's see if it's on like a simple deform. Restrictions. Okay, vertex group. And we can only affect half. And boom, now we have only half being affected right here. Right? So this is how vertex groups works, guys. Right? It's a group of vertices that you chose so it can be affected by the different modifiers. Very, very useful. Spitfire says, whoa, how did you get the opacity then? I missed it in solid mode with opacity. So the opacity is coming from two things, Spitfire. It's coming from, first, I have a mix shader. Let me bring it in here. I have a mix shader that's mixing between emissions and transparent, and I have to make sure that my material has the blending mode to blend, alpha blend. So once you have this set up and whatever else you do to it selected, and then you have these as alpha blend, alpha clip, and I think show back face, that's what makes it transparent in the solid editor. You know, it's funny, I didn't even know it affected it in the solid, but I think it does. Let's see if there's something else we can do here. Boom, 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 boom. Also, Spitfire, if you I gotta go to bed. I'll catch up again. Great work. All right. Also, before you go, you can do X-ray here, and then this is how you do some transparency. So be sure to know that too. Anyway, good night, Spitfire. I hope you have a great night. Okay, cool. So going back on the vertices, remember that we have two vertice groups. One is only half, one is the energy. And that's very good because we use it for the modifiers, because we're able to restrict different modifiers to different vertices. And I think that's a very important thing to know here, right? This is what we're doing, right? But we're going to be doing a trick here, right? Because I'll give you an example. So if we go to, let's say, mask, we want to mask out a vertex group. We put half. You see that it masks out half the vertices. And we can see that it masks out the other half of the vertices. Now you can't really see it with this material here. There we go. So you see that the vertex group is masking half of it, and you can invert it and uninvert it, right? And remember, that's from the vertex group here, right? We can also do full, so it's just going to show us everything or not show us everything because it's in full, right? So that's great. We have the ability to mask things, right? We have the ability to mask vertices that we choose, right? But what I want, right, to make these random is I want to be able to, for it to be affected randomly, so I can get different spots and orbs and stuff. We can really start building out this effect, right? So let's go back to our orb here, our nice little animating orb, right? And we'll take off mask. So what we're gonna do is, and this is something I think people don't really cover, is let's go to solid mode. So let me show you something about these vertex group, right? So when I'm in edit mode, you can see that this vertex group, when I hit assign and I hit when you hit assign, you get to choose a weight, right? So you have to imagine a weight that's a number between 0 and 1, right? So when I hit assign weight 1, that means that in the back end of Blender here, right, all these vertices have an extra number to them. They're like, oh, I'm this vertices and I have a weight of 1. 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 Blah, 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 right? They all have different weight numbers, right? What we want to do is we want to randomize that weight number. Hopefully this isn't going over your head. I'm going to try and make it a little easier here. So to be able to visualize what these weights are, right? There's actually a mode for it in Blender, right? If you go to object mode and you go to weight paint, you see that they're red, right? So the way that it goes, let's see if I can write it down here so it makes sense. Red, you know, equals 1, and blue equals 0, and I think green, if I remember correctly, equals 0.5, right? So you can see that this is red, and that's because all of it is selected, and I gave it all a weight of 1 when I first assigned it into this group, right? So I assigned it to this group, everything has a weight of 1. And you can see if I clicked half, you can see that everything below is blue, so it has a weight of 0, and everything above has a weight of 1, so it's red. And in between we got green and yellow, which is halfway through. So there's a bit of a transition here, right? And you can even, in this weight paint mode, you can even draw different you could draw different weights, right? So now this material is going all weird and around, right? And you can obviously put, not obviously, but you can go in, you can hit subtract. We want to subtract stuff, so we make it blue. So let me just show you something real quick where I'm just gonna color this around and just make it weird, right? And we'll leave that half empty and we'll color it all weird and stuff. Cool. So now my half, this is the weight of it. This is how it's being read, right? Red parts are 1 or on. So the red parts are either 1 or it equals on, right? Or it equals off, right? Try to think about it that way. Blue is off, red is on, 1, 0. That's what we're doing here, right? So then when we go back to object mode, we go to our modifiers, we choose, let's say one that we can see. So we'll do the displacement one. We'll choose the texture, right? And now we choose half. You can see that only some parts are being affected. This whole side is the blue side, and you can see the difference here. Watch. Weight paint. You see? The parts that are red are being affected by the displacement the most. The parts that are blue are not being affected at all. Blue off, red on, green halfway affected, right? So I can even go on here and I can paint. Let's see, add. And I can paint the displacement and where I want it, right? And now we go back to object mode and you can see I have it there. But if I didn't want it anywhere, like, oh, I want to subtract it from different places. So let's go to weight paint. Let's go to subtract. Right? Subtract. You see that it's all going away because it's being affected by this. So let me show you a different example. If we go into mask, we use the half one, which is not half anymore. We've changed it. We've painted it. We painted on it. You can see that the blue is off, so it's not being affected. And the red is on, so it's being affected. You can also invert the vertex group, so it's the other way around. So the red is invisible and the blue stays on, right? So this is how these vertex groups work, guys. It's by weight painting, right? So we have half, we have the threshold, and we can affect it in different ways, right? You know, I can make it invisible. I can also hit add to see if I can bring it back. Boom, I can use it because the mask and this vertex group, we can bring it back, right? Look at that. Comes back, comes back, comes back, boom, comes back. Or make it invisible. Or masked, I should say. Subtract, boom, invisible. Boom, invisible, right? Boom, invisible. So this is hopefully, if you have any questions, please ask in the chat, guys. Hopefully this explains how this vertex group works. It's essentially a group that has every vertices in it, right? And it's giving it a weight of 0 or 1 or anything in between. 0 being off, red being on, or being red and blue, as you see in the weight paint mode. And then when you use it in a modifier, it's using this weight to turn off and on the effect individually on the vertex by vertex basis, right? That's weight painting. A little heady, it's a little much. I understand, I get it, but it's important to understand. But if you don't understand it, it's okay. You could just do these actions and it'll work, right? Okay, so now once that's all explained, let's close this. Let's continue on, right? So right now I have energy, right? Energy has every vertices in it to 1, right? But like I said, I want to be able to affect it. Explains great. Thank you, Susan. I'm glad it's clear. Like I said, if you have any questions, please ask. Or anybody in the chat. Okay, so cool. So we have this group that has all our vertices, and they're all on the weight of 1. And as we see here in the weight paint, they're all red. That's what we have right now. I want them to be random. I want it to be spotty, right? So then I can mask out spots of this sphere, right? So we'll go to modifier, and there's a modifier in here, guys. Does wave modifier have vertex group option? We can definitely check. It does. It does, Jiraj. And you can affect different parts and have only certain parts have waves. It's very useful, guys. Definitely get into this. Okay, so there's a modifier that I now want you to know. Now that you understand weight painting and vertex groups, let's go to modifiers. And we're going to do vertex weight edit. And this is where the power comes in. The power of weight stuff. Right? So vertex weight edit. And we're going to put in a vertex group here, right? And the vertex group we're going to put is energy, right? So right now, this modifier, what it's going to do, it's going to affect the color, or the weights, I should say, not the color. It's going to affect the weights of the different vertices, which is either red, blue, or green, or yellow. But we're going to be affecting it with a texture. And this is where the magic happens, right? We're going to influence, right? And we're going to add in a vertex group. We'll hit energy. Boom. Oh no, not energy, sorry. This first vertex group, we put energy, but then we're gonna make a texture. We'll hit new. Right now we have a new texture. For right now, we're gonna go and make it a cloud texture. So what I did was, in this modifier, I clicked this little button here on the right here. It says show texture in texture tab. So I clicked on it, and we're going to just change this to a Voronoi texture. So in the under type, Voronoi, we got this texture going on, right? Great. Go back to the modifier. Now, the way that I want this texture to affect it, right, is using an object. So now we need an object. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in an empty. Hit Shift A, add in an empty, and just so we can see it, let's make it a circle. No, let's make it a sphere. I'm gonna bring it to the side here, just so we can see the empty here, right? Cool. So let's go back to our sphere. Let's go back to this, and now we're gonna do the little eyedropper here, and we're gonna choose our empty. Nothing happens. Let's go to weight mode. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, something's happening here. Give me 1 second while I figure this out. Intensity. Object. Empty. There is something going on here. 1 second. All right. What's supposed to be happening is that this object should have spots on it. I'm trying to figure out what is going on here. Don't you have to have vertex group selected there? I did this earlier before the stream. Maybe I am wrong. Okay, so there we got this going on. Okay, so I may have explained this. I think you're right. I thought vertex edit, vertex group, normalize weights, influence. What I don't want is vertex group, actually. I do want a texture here. Object, empty. All right, guys. I think it's vertex weight, it's proximity what I want, right? So let's objects, local, empty, intensity. I swear it was this edit mode, right? All right, so let's do the other one first. Okay, so let's go back. We'll go to add modifier. We'll go to vertex weight proximity. We'll add in our group. We'll put in our target object as this empty. And for the influence, we're going to add in the texture, right? So we have the texture and put the object here and also make this the empty, right? So now if we mess around with the lowest amount, you can see that we start getting these spots, right? And now we're getting somewhere when it comes to this, right? And then we can also go into the texture and make it bigger and smaller. So let's make it bigger. Add some more depth in here. Bring up the intensity, the contrast even, right? Okay, so now we have these spots here, right? And if we go into our vertex weight proximity, it's hard to show this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some animation onto my empty. So let's go to object mode. And if you were paying attention earlier, we have the driver that we can add to it. So we'll go to empty. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it. We're going to rotate it on the Z, on the Z axis. So we'll go into the Z axis. We'll do hashtag frame divided by 100. And now you see that this empty is rotating, right? So now if I go to weight mode, this should be being affected now. So let's go to the object. Let's go to weight mode. And you can see that our weights are now being affected by this object here, right? And we can even move the object. Oops. We can go to empty and then we can move the object. Goes further away, stronger, better. And you can see that the weight is being affected, right? And you're like, what does this mean, right? But this is the cool thing we were talking about earlier. Now red is on, blue is off, right? So let's make it so we can at least see some blue in here. There it is. So make sure to hit normalize weights. So we got some blue going on in there. Oh my god, I keep Control-Zing out of this. We got some blue in there. And this is going, right? So right now, our vertex group is being changed in real time as time changes, right? So now imagine this. Go to object mode. We'll go into our modifiers. We have our vertex proximity there. If we hit add modifier, now we hit mask. Let's see what happens, guys. You see we're getting some spots. We're getting some spots there. And if we hit threshold, you can see that we're changing all there, right? So look, now we got an animating looking thing. Let's see what it looks like with the orb, right? So obviously this looks a little, you know, computer graphic-y, right? Like a graphic effect. So what we want to do is we want to hit a subsurface, add a subsurface, so we make them a little smoother. Oh, it's going a little slow. I'm afraid that my computer will crash at 1 second. So what we'll do is actually we'll hit we'll add in a modifier. We'll put smooth, and we'll smooth out these different edges. Maybe repeat, maybe not repeat. Some smooth edges there. All right, now we got this effect going on, right? Looks a little choppy, right? And I'm not going to do this for long because it slows down my computer, but we'll hit subdivide, and now we got this effect going on, right? And this is all being affected procedurally with this weight proximity on here, right? And you can also move this guy around and affect it in different ways. Let me turn off my subdivision. Yeah, you can create Jirash says, I guess if you put subdivide surface mod, you can create like clouds on a globe. Yes, you can, but we're not done, Jirash. We're not done. So here's our effect, and it's being affected by this particular empty, which is great, right? But let's add in one more modifier, and this is where it changes it from just kind of like this weird effect to a little bit more usable. Now we'll go to modifier, and we'll do a simple deform, and then we'll do a twist, and then we'll twist this, right? And we'll twist this on the Z axis, and now we have a bit of a better effect there, right? We're gonna make our empty invisible for now. There you go. So now we have this orb here, and then it kind of like crinkles and goes through and stuff or whatever. But if you wanted to, instead of like having this rotate, right? We can then make it stop rotating here. Let's delete this driver, put it back to 0. Right, so now we have see the texture is still changing different colors here, right? Then you could just wow, okay, this is like really cool. Yes, exactly. So yeah, so now you have the effect here, and obviously if we go to weight paint, you can see, oops, you can see how it's being affected here. This is how it's being affected by the mask, by the smooth, nice air bending effect. Yes, see, and this is how you can start doing like some different effects using this simple modifier here, right? You could do a bend. And this is like a weird thing. Bend. You could do it on the Z axis, so it's kind of like a portal. And yeah, so this is the basis of the effect, right? And then obviously if you go into the emissions and you crank it up, you can have it really glow and have the effect here. This can rotate, right? So let's rotate this on the Y. So we'll do hashtag frame divided by 50. And there you go. Now we have like this energy glowy type effect, right? And it's all being done because of the modifier of the weight painting and the proximity here. And that's how you affect it, right? Cool. So that this is one, right? So we're gonna duplicate this. So we'll do sphere. I'm gonna oh Josh, thank you. And yeah, so this is the first effect, right? And this all comes from this shader. This, I would say simple. I know it looks a little daunting, but it's a pretty simple shader. And we have this orb effect going, right? So let's continue, right? Let's move this one to the side. Let's duplicate this. Bring this one to the center. For good measure, we're going to duplicate the material. So we'll click on this button here. Duplicate it. We're at energy 1, everything's good and stuff. And let's keep playing with this weight, guys. This weight stuff is very cool. So let's bring this empty, which I'm gonna name this one energy 1, energy 0, no, energy empty dot 000. Okay, we're gonna bring this guy beneath him right here. All right, so let's continue. Let's keep editing this different effect to get some different looking stuff, right? So I already duplicated the object and the material. I'm also going to duplicate the empty. Can you make it so it wouldn't change shape on moving? For that, Jiraj, you can apply the modifiers, and then you can have it just be applied, and then you can have the shape, and you can have it mess around with it and stuff, added the displacement stuff on it. So definitely you can go in here, go to the map, and just the easiest way to do this is click on the object, do convert to mesh, and this should apply all the modifiers. So now you have the effect here. So now you can rotate it like this, you know, and then you can rotate the object, right? And then you have it, right? Then you could just hit frame divided by 50, right? And then you can have it rotate there. So applying the mesh, applying the modifier will do it. And then, you know, you can even add in, like, I don't know, a displacement on this, right? Displacement, put in a material, obviously not that strong, and you can like really just start doing some effects here and stuff. So I'm gonna keep it unapplied, just so we can work off of it. This is our base, right? So let's do another thing with it. So I'm gonna duplicate the empty. We're gonna bring it over to the side. Boom. And we're going to start over. Let's erase. We're back to our square one. We're gonna bring our energy down on this one so it's not super bright. There we go. So there's our first energy beam stuff, right? So let me take a breather here, and I would have swore I could have just done this with vertex edit. And I just want to make sure that that I can. So vertex weights. Intensity value objects. All right, I need some water. We're talking non-stop here. Okay, fall off linear. I just wanted to make sure that this intensity, because when I first did this, guys, before the stream, I was doing it with vertex edit because I thought vertex proximity, I thought it was affected so much by the movement of the empty. I thought that the edit would help. Custom. Just making sure. If not, we're gonna keep using proximity. Yeah, it's probably just, I guess maybe I just used proximity and I didn't realize it. So hue saturation, blue value, blah 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 blah. Wouldn't be saturation. Okay, I guess it is proximity, guys. So just in case anybody missed it, this is pretty cool setup. Any chance you can do quick tip versions of this stream? Yes. So this whole stream was for me to, thank you, Ferd. This whole stream was for me to go through all this, go through all my hiccups, which you are now seeing as I'm going through them. I'm like, I thought I used vertex edit, and I thought vertex weight edit. I actually probably did use vertex proximity. You know, going through the hiccup of the blending modes and stuff like that. So I'm definitely going to be making different parts of videos for different things of effects. Right now I'm going to go through all the ones I can just come up off the top of my head, and then I'll make a quick tips one, and I'll make like a tutorial, a quick tips tutorial and stuff. This is just this, I love these streams because they're really helping me get my thoughts together and stuff. So yes, long-winded answer is yes, Ferd. Okay, so we're gonna do this again. We're gonna do modifier. If anybody missed it, we're gonna do modifier, weight by proximity. We're gonna choose energy. We're gonna choose the vertex group that we created. Do the object mode, right? We are then going to normalize our weights, and the influence is the texture that we're gonna put on it, and we're gonna do it by the object. Same thing. And there we go. We're affecting our mode here. There we go. And you just change the low. Make sure to have normalized weights. That helps gets the blue in there. And I think after that, I don't think these numbers really affected at all. Like 0, as long as I guess it's like 0, 1. No, I guess it's the distance that it is. So like, let's go to object. Bring this to the top. Let's go back to weighted. Yeah, I guess it's just the distance that the empty is at. So this doesn't really matter. This could be 0, normalized weights, hit it a bunch. For the fall off, I don't think that matters either. Does that change anything? Yeah, none of this else affects it. Once you have the texture in here, that's really what's affecting it and stuff. So let's try a different texture. So right now we got clouds. Let's do Verone. All right. And let's mess around with texture here. So we got intensity. Oh man, it's also affecting. Let's go back. Let's go back. Okay. So let's go to this object. Go to the vertex mode. And let's add in a new texture. That's what I should have done. Duplicate the texture. We'll call this, forget to name these. So energy, we'll call this energy 1. And we'll call, what texture am I using this one with? Texture, so I'm going to call this energy 0, just so I can keep track of these. There we go, energy 0, 0, 0, blah, blah, blah. Cool, so we're at energy 1 here. Let's go back to our view here. We got our shield. So, without any texture, guys, let's do one without a texture. Click on this. I forgot to do vertex weight proximity. So we'll do the vertex group. The object is energy empty 001. Oh, so let me go back to my weight. I can't see it. There we go. Normalize weights. And then geometry. There we go. So without doing the texture, guys, right? So without doing the texture, the influence here with the texture or anything like that, let me show you what this looks like when it's just using a proximity, which can be pretty fun too. So let's bring our energy empty. Let's go to our point here. Let's bring this about here. We're going to bring it down the Z. We'll bring it down the 1 here. I'm gonna make this so this moves left and right automatically. That's all I'm doing here. I'm doing another driver. If you don't want to listen to this or don't get overwhelmed, guys. You don't have to listen to this one. The most important one is frame divided by something or times something. But for this one, I'm just doing sine, and I'm doing it in a parentheses, and I'm putting frame in it, divided by like 10 or something, right? So this one's going back and forth, and I'm also gonna add like, I don't know, 4 to it. There we go. So you see that maybe three. Okay, cool. So now you can see that my empty's moving back and forth, and I'm doing this so you can see the change in the weight that happens, right? So this is just using proximity by itself. Let's go to weight paint, and you can see how this is being affected, right? So what you have to do is in the vertex weight proximity, choose the group, which is all the vertices, target object, which is the empty that I chose, and then choose the proximity mode. Instead of object just makes it so it changes all together, right? Like boom, red, almost blue, red. Maybe we'll change these numbers so it actually changes blue. Let's see. At its furthest point, it should be just turning red. So let's stop it at its furthest point, just turning red. And at its closest point, right? Let me stop it there. Right here, it should be turning all the way blue. So I'm holding shift while dragging. And there we go. So now you see how it turns blue at its closest, red at its furthest. So that's 0, 1. If you guys remember, red off, whatever. So instead of object, do geometry. And you can see that now it's being affected by the distance here. We could do edge, which goes all the way. And we could do face. I think edge is probably the best here. The best. And I actually may have to change this back entirely because I forgot to hit normalize weight, which is important. Fred says, I gotta say, I can't recall seeing anyone ever use drivers like this in a Blender vid. Your AE expressions are showing through. Yes, Fred. A lot of my After Effects seeps through in this type of stuff. And I'm not a programmer, by the way. I just know like 5 expressions that are used all the time that you can add certain numbers to change just a little bit. So let's change this back to object mode. Let's figure out. Oh, I guess that's fine. So we'll go back to geometry. We'll go to edge. And you can see how this is now being affected by just the distance alone, right? So you can see that it's being affected. So now we can add in our effects, right? We can go into, let's say, mask. We can put in our energy. And you can see that now it's being affected. And we'll go to the edit mode. And you can see that it's like something's going into the force field. You know what I mean? Like it's like... Or like something's like if somebody were to walk through a force field, this is like the effect that you would use, right? You would attach it to an empty, put it onto the character, and then the character kind of like makes that happen through, right? And we can use the threshold. So let's add some stuff. Let's pause it actually. Right? So we're paused. We'll use a different threshold. Maybe it takes out halfway through, right? Well, then I would love to see you do a video adapting those expressions to Blender drivers tip videos. All the ideas today. The ideas are coming today. Content is going to be coming. I will definitely be showing a bunch of drivers in the future. I love the driver stuff. I just always think, I'm always hesitant on showing that type of stuff because like, sometimes it's overwhelming. People's eyes glaze over and stuff, but I should just put it out there for the world. Okay, so we got the energy going, and then yeah, the same thing, you know, we add in a smooth here, put in a bunch of smooth. I like that it creates like an edge to it too. Like we got a smooth there, we get it repeat, maybe even add in a subdivision, And just for now, we're gonna take off the second thing here. Oh no, not the second thing here. This first energy, just so it's not super rendering there. And it's going a little slower, but let me just take it off. But yes, you can see add a subdivision surface to this. Yes, I think it does react, Jiraj, to the scaling. Let me just do it now. So you can see that it's going back and forth, in and out, right, into the force field. And if I just go to energy, I'm sorry, the empty. There we go, empty. I'm going to take off the drivers, delete driver, delete driver. And then I just mess around with it, just using the empty, moving it around. You see that it kind of erases it. It's like, vroom. It's going in and out. Boom. This could be a cool effect for like the shield turning off. Zoom, 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 zoom. Always do the sound effects. And yeah, I think it's affected by size. Oh, it's not. Definitely not. Maybe it's only affected, Jiraj, if it's under object. Let's see. No, it is not affected. I think it's only affected by the geometry. But Jiraj, the reason it's not being affected by size, right? The reason it's not being affected by size is because I'm specifically using an empty, right? And an empty in the computer world, right, only has one point. And that point is the center point. So everything is being derived from the center point. But let's say, right, let's say that I use a sphere, right? A sphere has a lot of different points, and then that's how it gets affected, right? So let's add in a sphere. So under utility, I'm gonna add in an icosphere, and I'm gonna bring it in the same distance here. And then under weight proximity, instead of doing the target object being this empty that I like to use, I'm going to use the icosphere. So now the icosphere, with this geometry proximity mode, what it's asking here is that should it be taking into account the vertices? Should it be taking into account the edges? Should it be taking into account the face? And you can see they all have a different effect on it here, right? So if I do, let's say, vertices, now when I move this, it's affecting it, and the size does affect it, see? And this is probably a little bit even more precise because it's coming from a more bigger point. Josh says, yeah, mesh should work. Yes, exactly. So for anybody watching who see it, using a mesh is also another way of doing this, and you can make it go invisible and not invisible and stuff. And that's just a very cool way of doing this type of stuff, right? So boom, we got mesh. Obviously we can put in also, you know, another thing is that this is affected by the vertices. So if this mesh was more dense, let's see if I can do it right now. Right click, subdivide. I have much more points here. I subdivided it. Now the effect should be a little bit smoother, especially if you add in a smooth in here, right? Add in a smooth. Even put the energy vertex group in there. Boom. So you could drive the scaling with an expression. You could also create an old school sci-fi ship entering effect. Yes, exactly. And yes, you could use an expression for it. Like, you know, I even like it here because you can see that you can see the shape of the sphere actually affecting it there. So anyway, this is a different way of going about this. Also, the distance is all being decided by this here, the lowest amount and the highest amount, right? So let's put it something like 3. So if you're going, this is going through, let's even put it closer. Let's do 0.1. Maybe not 0.1. Let's do 0.5. Maybe just 1. There we go. So see, if you do 0.1, you can see the effect kind of change here, right? And it's actually, since the icosphere has a lot of points, you can see it kind of makes like this kind of weird effect here. So this is a good effect already. Watch this. So if we go into hit Alt G, we center it. Let's make our icosphere invisible for now. So you can see that the icosphere is affecting it in such a weird way, right? So this is a pretty cool effect already. So let's do something here. Let's make the distance a little less even. Get the icosphere. All right. So let's affect the scaling here. So for the scaling, it's the same thing. So we'll hit we'll change this to sine frame divided by 10, and then we'll see what that looks like. So you can see it goes up and down, right? Kind of like a floor ball. Yes. So when you put in the sine, all a sine is, guys, if you guys ever taken math and stuff, it could be really complicated. I didn't do well in math. But all a sine is up and down. You know, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. So when you put the sine, put the frame in it, it's just going to go back and forth. So I'm going to times this by 0.1.1. And I'm going to add it to the rest of them. So let's add it to the rest of them. And now let's make this invisible. So now that this effect's kind of weird. It's not going big enough, right? Let's actually put it by 0.5. Cool. So now this effect is kind of interesting because it's like only going from the side to side. Let's put it 5 to 5. 1.5. What an interesting thing that's happening here. Oh, what happened to my icosphere? Hold on. I think I did this wrong. Let's do this again, guys. Sine. Frame. Divided by 10. Close parentheses. Times 1.5. It is going so fast. Let's see if we can slow it down by 100. By 100. Divided by 100. There we go. That's nice and slow. So let's go from the back. Alright, now let's make it invisible and see what that looks like. It's kind of interesting. You can definitely affect with this. Let's see if one last thing before I continue. If we do it by face. It's way too fast. How about edge? Oh, it's crazy when you can't see what's happening. There you go. Anyway, do it with an icosphere. I'm going to do it with an empty. Let's bring it back to the empty. Boom, boom, boom. Do it empty. We're affecting it. There we go. We got the object going. Normalize weights. So when's the last time you saved your file? Now I saved my file. Okay, cool. So let's go back. Thank you for reminding me, Fred. I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's bring back our effects that we have so far. So we have our orb here that's being affected by the weight proximity. Same thing. Using deform, we did a smooth, we did a simple deform. We have it with no effects and just being affected by the distance, right? So that's pretty cool. So that's pretty awesome. Scale not affecting it, but we can obviously make this bigger. And we'll zero this out real quick. So that's pretty cool there. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we got two effects going on. Pretty cool. I like them and stuff. So let's continue. Let's move this. Select these, and I'm gonna move them to the side. Move them to the side. Right? We're also gonna duplicate our energy sphere here. And we will put it in the center, and we will take off all of the modifiers. Can you simulate orbiting in Blender? Simulate orbiting in Blender. That seems like a pretty simple thing. I'll do it real quick. Basically, got Jiraj. If you're gonna do like orbiting, wouldn't you? When you say simulate, don't you just mean like parenting? Like you do a sphere, then you copy the sphere, bring it to the side. And then parent it, right? And then you rotate the sphere on the z-axis, and then you and then you just you know, put something on the rotation here, right? So like frame divided by 10, and then you got. But when you but I was actually thinking about but what is the benefit of doing an actual simulation than George, what is what would be the benefit for the actual simulation? Because when it comes to the scales of like planets and stuff, it doesn't matter, but I guess for smaller things, it just seems like a lot of extra work. It's like kind of like trying to cut the grass with shears. Like you could cut the grass with shears if you want. Or you can, like, you know, do it an easier way. I guess my question is for you is what is the benefit for you of doing it in a simulation and stuff? All right. Also, Marco, good to see you in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. I guess the difference is that you can key stuff. I guess that's true. All right. So I'm going to take a bathroom break. Do I have a break window here? Hold on. All right, guys, going on a break for real quick. So just give me like, it's not gonna even be 10 minutes. It's gonna be like 3 minutes. And I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Let's look at let me put on some art just scrolling by here. Hopefully nothing inappropriate comes up. All right. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Okay. To continue on to this break time, I guess this is what we're doing here. I'll just take these extra 5 minutes to chat with you guys here in the chat. Okay, so starting from the top, Jiraj, you want to do simulations. I've tried doing simulations of like legit orbits and stuff within Blender, and it's actually like a very difficult thing to do. You know, I've used there's magnets, and then there's what's that force field called that I use? It's called magnetic, and then harmonic, right? Harmonic is interesting. I think it's harmonic, because with harmonic, this. So with harmonic, right, you would have this rest length, right? So the power, you have your strength, which takes away or pushes out, and then you have the rest length, and then it won't get any closer to that. So you would use a lot of like this harmonic stuff to get that sort of like legitimate orbit and stuff. But there's so much like affecting it and stuff. Like there's a reason why like orbits are calculated in like scientific programs and stuff, and not like 3D software. But you can, though. I mean, all 3D software is a scientific program using math and stuff like that. But thank you, Ferd. I took the risk. So yeah, so I would Jiraj, I would say try using harmonics if you want to get into some complicated stuff like that, because then you at least have some control over it. And then and it's also about like in your rigid body stuff, setting the like the weight of different objects, like heavier and smaller and stuff like that. So that's the way that I guess I would do it. So yeah, that's, hopefully that answers your question, Josh. Magnets, negative force wind, perhaps that would get you there. Yeah. But if you wanted to use like math and stuff, I think like you could use simple math, but that's like using pi. I guess it's not a simulation still. That's just still expressions running stuff. So yeah. Anyway. Let's see what else we can make here. Okay. So what we're gonna do is, let me take out this harmonics and let me bring back our mode here. There we go. Ugh. All right. Also, I want to thank everybody for hanging out, being here. Thank you, Ferd, Marco, Susan, Jiraj, and my mother, if you're out there. Thank you for watching my stream. All right. So, we're gonna continue on with these orbs. There's some more stuff that I can do here, but let me take a different approach. Okay, let me take a different a different approach that may be a little bit more, I don't want to say complicated, but different, but it's for the purposes of learning these different techniques that you can apply to different things, right? So we're going to erase our orb. We're also going to make our orbs invisible. We're also going to make our energy invisible. So we're back to square 0. 0. And we are going to... We're going to do this. Hit 7. So we're looking at it from the top, right? And we're going to hit Shift A. We're going to add in a mesh. And we're going to add in a plane. So here, let's add in the plane. Hit Edit Mode. Grab. Or G, I'm sorry. G, X, 1, right? So what's happening here is that my square, right, is right on the y-axis, right? Perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to scale this up, but I don't want to scale it from the middle. I want to scale it from the middle of the scene, you know, the cursor, where the cursor is at. So hit the period key next to your question mark. Hit 3D cursor. And then now we're going to hit scale. Now it scales like from there, right? But we only want to scale it on the X. Susan says, after the stream, can you check the email? See if you can help me with this. Wes. Yeah, no problem.
Can anyone help me? I'm trying to use the knife tool. As far as I'm
watching your
thought
video
it
right
was,
now.
is you had to go knife, left click, drag. And why am I not able to get it to cut? Even if I go from...
Okay, so it looks like, you know, and if you don't mind me sharing this, Susan, looks like she's having trouble with, let's see. All right. Looks like she's having trouble with using the knife tool here. And she can't cut. Right? Cutting through. Cut through there. Oops. You're in edit mode. You're on point cut. I think you're on vertices. I think you're try changing this mode from vertices to face, and see if that changes anything. And I'm gonna make sure on my end. So 1 second. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm gonna do, before we continue on with this, let's figure out Susan's problem here. Her dilemma. We're gonna do a new scene, and we're gonna get back to this. We're gonna make a sphere, a cube. Let's go to edit mode. She was using the knife tool. Knife. Oh man, I think I can cut through here, and I hit enter, and then I cut it through. Let's see. Jiraj. Oh, Jiraj, yes. For some reason I thought I could only hear it. That's so funny. Yes, definitely you guys you're hearing it. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so thanks for that. I'm sorry about that, guys. Selected only, occluded, global, blah blah blah. You're in edit mode. You're in cut. Ha 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 ha. All right. All right. So I'm not sure, Susan, like, you haven't changed this. Right click, you cut. I'm not sure, but I would definitely check it out. Send me the project file or your project file. Maybe it's different. You said after even a reboot. If you could email me the project file, I could definitely help you out with that. Okay, so continuing on, what we're gonna do is create a plane. Move it to the side so it's right on the edge. We're going to scale this up, and we're going to scale it up from the cursor. So we're going to go into face mode, scale it up, and we're going to scale it up on the X, right? So I want to scale it up 3-4 times. Let's do 4 times, right? And for no particular reason, honestly. I'm just doing it just cuz, right? So in edit mode, I'm going to do shift or control R. And you can't really see it, but I'm scrolling my wheel and cutting it up a bunch of times. So I'm going to cut it up. So let me do this again. Shift R. I'm gonna hit scroll the wheel, and you can see it on the bottom left here how many is happening, right? Number of cuts 25, right? 25. So let's just do 25. Why not? So here they are. I hit right click and I got them all here, right? Cool. So there's our plane all chopped up. Doesn't really look like anything. We're gonna go into the modifier. And we're gonna go to simple deform, and then we're gonna do a bend, and we're going to bend it on the Z axis, right? So this is our bending. Ooh, boom. So we got a circle here. Bam, we're going 360. We can even use vertex groups here, which I find interesting. Also, this is an interesting effect here with these limits. What is happening here? It looks like a snake. Like, I guess you can... I wonder if that could be useful in the future. Anyway, so do 360, and now when you go to edit mode, right, obviously the simple deform is being applied onto it, making it into a circle, which is a beautiful thing to see, right? In edit mode, if we go above and we hit G and hit Y, you can see that we can make the circle bigger and smaller, right? Which is pretty great. Also, another thing you can do here, and this is just a side note just for you guys to play around with, is if you go to edge mode, right? And you grab, let's say, a couple of these edges here, a couple of these edges there, and do this. You hit grab. You can kind of make, like, you know, sci-fi type, you know, effects where you can, like, you know, scroll in, make this thinner. It could be like a cog. This can go in all the way down, you know, or this can go in like this, and you can make like some pretty interesting sci-fi elements this way. So this is a great way to do that, but we're not doing this. We're not doing that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make a circle like this, which is what we want. It's being deformed into a circle because we're gonna add in a material to it. We're gonna call this, we're gonna do energy 1, but instead of energy 1, we're gonna hit this little duplicate key and we'll have energy 2. Beautiful, right? So now we can affect this one and it won't affect anything else, right? So what we're gonna do is, I wonder if I should start this one from scratch, right? So we did some extra steps here early. So when you have a modifier, you have these 3 options here. Select the little computer screen so it won't affect it anymore. We're gonna work with it unaffected, right? And we're gonna start building our material, right? What we're gonna work on first, I wonder if I should start over. Nah. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna disconnect. Maybe I should start over. Decisions to be made. Let's start over for the sake of this. We can always reference this again. Okay. First thing I want to do, let's work with an emission shader. If you followed adding to your quick favorites, hit Q, emissions, beautiful. Hold, Alt, right click, connect. We got this nice thing going on. The next thing we want to do is we want to do a mix shader. Hit Q, mix shader. Next. Got it. And for the sake of this, we're gonna duplicate this emissions and make it black, just because I want to see black and white. Right now it's gray because it's mixing between the white and the black, right? Black, white. And you can see how this factor works. 0 means 1, so this one. Or 0 means the first input. 1 means the second input. 0.5 means the middle between both. So we're going to add in a texture, right? So the texture that we're going to be adding is a Verone texture. So hit Q and do a Verone texture. Got it. Boom. Displace. All right. We got our Verone texture that looks like it's stretched out. It shouldn't be stretched out, but it does look stretched out. Cool. We click on Verone, hit Control T, and we added in our texture node here. All right. So this is how we're going to be able to affect this texture, right? So let's stretch it out. Let's stretch it out in a different way. Let's stretch it out on the x-axis and the y-axis, right? So let's stretch it out something like this, right? Looking dandy, right? And then what we can do is we can move the texture, right? We can move the texture upwards, right? Or downwards, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use an expression here. The expression right here. We go to y. Put it 0 first. Y hashtag frame divided by 10, right? Now we have some movement going on. That's looking pretty cool. That's looking pretty fast. I don't like it too fast. We'll do divided by 50. Now we got 0 means 1 is like a super deep quote on t-shirt. Yeah, it looked like it was applied. I'm not sure what was happening there. Like, it shouldn't be stretched, but we fixed it up. It was fine. So boom, we got some movement going on, right? It's looking cool. I think it's degenerated. Maybe it's object. Let's let me do that before we do anything. Let me see if it's the object. I'm just curious real quick. We're gonna try. Yes. So for I think what it wasn't the scaling. I think it was it being the type of texture coordinate it was. So if I went to this, it looks stretched, right? And I think it's object that we want. So that's the one. So that's looking good. So I'll bring this back in here. We'll probably have to change the scaling here. Let's scale it up. Okay. We got it to 1. We got it moving the other way. That's looking kind of cool, right? All right. So, excuse me. All right. So we got that going. Maybe do we want to stretch? Let's scale it. Let's scale it bigger. I want these to be bigger. So that's looking kind of cool. There we go. So we got this texture going. It's moving. It's driving. Looking great. And then we want to make it look a little bubbly. So let's add it to the Z-axis as well. And since the plane is on the X and Y axis, on the Z axis, it makes it look like it's bubbling. Because the texture, technically, we're just seeing a slice of this texture. Technically, this texture actually goes upwards too. And when we scale through it with the Z, we're actually seeing it move and stuff. So let's add in something real slow moving. So let's do hashtag a frame divided by 100. Let's say, right? So now we got some bubbling feature. Let's do it faster just to see what it looks like. Ah, look at that. So now we got some bubbling going on here, which is pretty cool. It's pretty neat. Ah. Made some coffee. I'm ready to go. Okay, so cool. We got our bubbling texture. We're mapping it. We're using some drivers to animate it. It's looking kind of dandy. We're using the object portion of it, which is great. Now another thing I want to do is I want to control over how this texture looks, right? Obviously I can do the scale and the randomness. Like, look at this grid. That's looking kind of interesting, huh? Okay, so we got the randomness going on. We could try some different ones like this Chekachev's. We can Minkowski. This is cool. It kind of is like a star effect. Manhattan. Euclidean. F2. Oh, that one's looking pretty cool too. I might use any of these. Smooth, distance to edge. Just looks like a shell. And sphere. Oh my god, that didn't even connect. What happened here? So that's looking pretty cool too. Anyway, let's go back to F1. I don't know why it keeps disconnecting. And we're gonna add in a color ramp. Something we use all the time. Go to color ramp, hit Q, color ramp, put it in your quick menus. And now we can control how bright these things are, right? So we got like this bubbling feature, which is pretty cool. We can even change this to constant. You can see that it could just be circles, right? It's like this bubbling going on, right? So then this, you know, we're gonna put it in a frame. We're gonna start putting things in frames early. Hit frame, put it in. Let's see, how do you do this? Grab, put it in. There we go. Let's name this frame. We're gonna call this texture 01. We're gonna make it huge so we can see it. Also, can we make this bigger? I can't. So texture 01. What does the color look like? Cool. We're gonna make our textures a certain color. Let's make them like this green color here. So we got our first texture, right? And I'm actually gonna make it so we know what it is. Verone Vor. Also we're gonna make it light. Let's make it light again. Cool, that almost looks like Jack Kirby comic effect. Yes. Like the dots? Would you say, like, for the dots effects? Okay, we're gonna do B-spline because I love B-spline. So there we go. We got like these dark spheres looking. It almost looks like, I don't know what it looks like, but it looks like something fun. Okay, now remember our simple deform we set up? Let's turn it on by pressing this little button here. Okay, cool. So now we got this motion going. And what's interesting right now is that it's all moving in one direction, right? And I think that's because of our texture coordinate here. It's taking into account the entire object, right? So let's turn it off again. Let's put this to UV or generated, and it's all wonky, right? But when we turn it back on, we get like a neater effect here, right? So let's fix it. So I guess object is not the way to go for this method that I'm using, but object is something to think about always. You know, you may just want this. So let's go back to turning this off and making this same look, but using the generated texture. So I think, you know, we'll stretch it out. Oh, we did it. It was just, oh, wait, is it 4 times? You know what's funny? I think I times the size of this by 4. Right? So I think that's what's happening here, because it's like the perfect size now. Anyway, we're on generated. Now this effect should look cool. Okay, cool. So that's looking kind of weird. It has like these lines in it. Let's hit shade smooth. That's not working well. And I think what's happening here is, let's see it here, is that there's like a lot of pinching that's happening on here. So let's see if we can move this, and we're just playing around here, in a way where maybe the pinching's avoided. So let's do that. Right. So this is a pretty cool effect here, right? So I'm gonna move this by -1 here on the Y, and we're getting this effect going on, and I think it looks pretty neat. I wish I knew what these lines were. Are they just from here? Like, I'm not sure. So let's actually cut this up, you know, even more, right? But this is a trick I'm gonna do. I want to redo my cuts, right? So a trick that to get rid of the cuts that are already here, select all the cuts, And you can obviously click one by one, or you can hit C. It gives you like a paintbrush, and you can just paint over it like that. So we got all our cuts. Hit X and do dissolve edges, right? And I dissolved one too many edges. It should have worked. Hold on, this should work. Dissolve edges. I'm dissolving the edge. Oh, it doesn't work because this. There we go. So let's bring these back. Let's select all the middle ones. Except the end. Don't do the end. Oh my god, I screwed this up. Oh, am I playing this? Oh my god, hold on. Hold on. I'm screwing all this up. Let's go back. Let's stop playing. Alright, so C, and we're gonna do this. Right? And we're gonna dissolve edges. Now we have our plane without the cuts. Great. Now we're just gonna redo the cuts. Hit R, and it's doing 25. Let's do like 50. No, let's do 70. 75. Is that too many? We'll do 75 cuts there. Now we'll turn this back on. Now our lines are still going. I wish I knew. Is there something here? Like maybe you have to cut it in half. Let's cut it in half horizontally. And let's do it a couple times. Let's do it 5 times. Okay, that fixed our issue. So basically I cut it a bunch of times down the side, and then I cut it 5 times long ways down the x-axis. And that fixed our mode here, right? So let's select all of these, let's bring them down, and now we're gonna get some pinching, but it's not as bad as it was before, right? So here we are, pinched. Looking cool, right? Cool. So we have this effect going on, and you're like, what's the point, right? Who cares? But let's see what it looks like with some transparency, right? This already has all the transparent settings. So let's, instead of doing an emissions of black, let's add in a transparent group, right? So transparent. And it looks all right, right? So let's see if we can... Interesting. That's also a neat effect too. Anyway, so I think the transparency is happening. Like if I made this dark, would it just be dark? Like this is affected, right? Yes, okay. There is some transparency happening there. But I think what's happening is that I should change this to linear. There we go. And then I can change this up. Man, you really can't tell because it just really fades in with the background. So, but yeah, just know that this transparency is happening, right? So we got this effect that's coming outwards and stuff, and that's great, right? So we have this texture. We'll move it up, and what we want to do is that we want it to fade around the ends, around the edges here, right? So let's fade it, guys. Let's fade it. So let's take this mode off here. Right? Also, is my bloom on? Yeah, bloom is on. Oh, that's why. So let's crank up our emissions. So we got some glowing stuff here. There it is. I don't know if that helps or if that works for you. So yeah, so what we want to do is we want to fade the edges, and the way that we're going to fade the edges, right, is that we're going to disable the deformer, which we already did, and we're going to mix this texture with another texture, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate this whole thing, right? And then I'm going to do a mix RGB. That's how we're going to mix these textures together, right? So mix RGB, boom. Here's the first mix, and here's the second mix. Right? So right now it's mixing, you know, this texture and this texture, which are basically it's actually still, and that's probably what we want, right? But we don't want it to be a Voronoi texture, right? And let's put this down to 1. We want it to be a gradient texture. We want a gradient, right? We want it to fade away, right? So we're gonna do the Voronoi texture. Hit Shift S. That's to switch type. And we go to textures and we're gonna go to gradient. Where is it? There it is, right? But for right now, I don't know how to work with this while I'm working on the gradient. I want to be able to see the gradient good. So I'm gonna select the color ramp, hold Control Shift, left click. Now I can see the gradient, right? Now this gradient, it's not in the right direction that I want it, right? I actually want the gradient going the other way, right? So let's zero all this out. Put this to 1. There we go. So there's our gradient, and I want the gradient to go up and up the y-axis, right? So we're gonna rotate it on the z, and we're gonna rotate it -90, right? Boom, we have it. We have the gradient there, right? And then we also want the gradient to be at both edges, like in the middle and at the end, right? So then we'll move this to the middle, this white, and then we'll select the next one, and then we'll change this to black, right? So now we'll have this like this beam here, which is pretty nice, and we'll see what that looks like. So now we will connect our mix shader again, and it doesn't look like it's affecting it, and that's because it's the factors on 1. How silly. Let's put it to 0.5. And now the gradient looks like it's trying to be invisible in the middle. So let's reverse it. Obviously, I could change these to white and then this one to black. But I'm lazy. So let's do a color invert. Let's see if that helps us. All right, now you really can't even tell what's happening here. All right. All right, so let's try a different blending mode. And this is the part where like this texture stuff can get kind of annoying because you have to test everything, right? So let's go back. We inverted it. I think that's the correct thing to do though, inverting it. Let's try adding. Let's try and add.
Our struggle as artists.
That's an interesting thing that it's doing there. Let's try subtract.
It's about tending to the broken parts inside of ourselves. We create things as a reflection.
There's something I am doing wrong here. Let's see if it's under factor.
That wave isn't necessarily a thing you achieve. Rather, it is a state of mind which you constantly strive
I wonder what is happening here. So right now I'm just doing some testing.
from and
Is it mixed now?
ideas aren't static, but fluid, like water,
There it is. I think I got it. I think I got it.
like water.
I think I got it. There it is. So now our gradient is actually being affected at the edges here. So what I had to do was put it into the factor and then put it to white, right? So let's organize this so it makes more sense. And there it is, and that's how I'm making it invisible here. So it's only happening in the center, or you know, fading out. So let's bring back our deform here. And then you can see that we can fade it out in the middle or the ends. But it's like being weird. So let's see if we can affect it, the color, with a gamma. So let's do shift gamma, or shift color, shift A, color, gamma. Okay. So interesting that's what's happening here. How about we change this into a color, brightness, and contrast? Such an interesting thing. These are some interesting effects though. Like you could definitely use these, and we're about to use them now. So I'm gonna leave it like this. All right. So Oh, you know what I should have done? Oh my god, this is what I should have done. Let's see what this looks like. I should have changed the settings on the gradient texture. Like, there's like easing. There's like the spherical, which kind of looks like a cool spiral. Quadratic. We could probably make this white less white, right? Ah, but it's so bright. What if we do B-spline? Okay. Okay, let's see what this looks like. This looks ridiculous. So I'm playing around right now with the gradient texture. We'll see how this works out for us. I like it though. It is fading out at the end though. It is fading out at the end. Maybe not so much in the middle, but definitely fading out near the end, which is kind of like a neat effect there. So there we go. And now let's continue to finally do something interesting with this. So let's bring back our energy ball. Bring back our energy ball. I'm gonna duplicate it. Bring it down to the middle. I'm gonna bring it up to the top here. There we go. I'm also gonna take off all the vertice stuff. And I'm gonna move this object so it's centered right here. Great. And for the object, now that I have it in place, I'm gonna move it down. Maybe we'll move it to a point where we can't see it. Let's see if we could do something interesting with this, right? Could we rotate it upwards? And that's what I'm going to do. Could we do another simple deform? I'm gonna do it a certain way right now, but I have a better way of doing this. Let's see. This is like insane looking. Stretch, taper, bend. All right, we're not doing it this way. We're gonna do it the way I was originally gonna do it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to vertex mode. I press 1, select this vertex here, and I'm going to hit Shift S, and I'm gonna put cursor to selected. Right, so there's the cursor. It is now in this corner point. Right, we're going to then hit the period key and hit 3D cursor. This is what we're gonna pivot. This is our pivoting point. Hit 3D cursor. We're gonna select all of them. We're gonna hit R for rotate and then X for the X-axis. We're gonna bring it up. All right, so let's see what that's looking like. So let's get out. Not looking as cool as I wanted to. Also, I can see a seam here. Let's hide this seam. There we go. And since we're using the same texture, the Voronoi texture, it definitely is not reading too well here. So let's now color this and keep it going. It's a lot of building here. We'll do a color ramp, and we're gonna add it to add some blue there. Add some pink here. Maybe it should be the opposite. Maybe I should just use different colors entirely. Like, what if we... think it's being lost, right? I think this purple's being lost in my own stuff here. So let's see if I can help this at all. Splitting it in half looks kind of interesting. Let's mess around with the Veroni texture. What if we did some different ones? What if we did end sphere? What's unfortunate is how bright it is at the bottom, because then that's just like, let's move this to the side. Let's see what we're looking at here. Interesting. I think the upward motions of the Veroni mapping isn't doing much for the bubbly effect anymore due to it now looks diagonal, not out of mesh. I agree. I 100% agree. So let's figure out some effects here. Let's go into this material. Let's switch the textures. So I changed it into a magic texture, which looks a little bit more fun. Let's try a linear. We did like a constant. That's like a fun looking effect too. So we'll do B-spline. The scale looks pretty interesting. Like, look at that. That looks ridiculous. This looks like just like an orb happening. Alright, so we got orb, we got scale. If we did like with the magic texture, you can make like this neat little bubble type effect too. Oh, and with the distortion on it too. Just pretty cool looking. So yeah, definitely play around with these textures. Like, that was just a magic texture. Let's see Musgrave. What if we flip these? Let's do some fractals. Multifactors. So yeah, all these textures obviously give everything a really different look. Like, I think I like the magic texture the most. So let's go to magic texture, because it's magical. Tripping balls. Oh man, I agree. This looks ridiculous. There we go. Maybe that's looking a little better. All right, so for this one, let's forget about this ore. I gotta figure out. I still gotta figure out how to do this. Let's figure out a different orb here. Let's add some modifiers to this guy. Let's go to modifiers. And let's add a displacement modifier. Actually, first let's do the texture modifier where no, let's do displacement. I'm so undecisive. Displacement. We'll choose a texture. Do some strength there. Let's do a simple deform. Twist on the Z. There we go. There we go. And let's do the racing weight thing I did. So let's add in an empty. Bring it down here. For this guy, we will add in the proximity. We'll bring this to the top. This already has the vertex group that I want. We'll choose the vertex group. The target object be this guy. And we'll do a texture. We will do an object. Do the same thing. Press Control S. Yes. Control S 40 times, 50 times, 60 times. I just ruined my history. All right. So let me go to my mask. I forgot to mask things. Mask, vertex group. There we go. Got our holes going. Oh my god, where's my camera? Oh, there we go. Reminds me of Borderlands 2 for some reason. It looks pretty ridiculous. There we go. Looks pretty crazy. Can we do a displacement that's a little weaker? That's what I'm thinking. Like there was some icy place. I guess that's why. Yeah, let's make it icy. Here we go. We got an ice crystal going. I wonder if like which one looks better. Hold on. If I do backface culling, take those off, or if I do show backface. There we go. All right. Let's rotate this guy. Same thing, guys. Frame divided by 50. Obviously, add in. You know, without the displacement, it looks pretty cool too, you know? The vertex weight. Let me get this texture. What if we didn't do Veroni? We did like Musgrave. There we go. This is looking This is magical. It doesn't look like a sphere because you can't see the back half. So if I just turn in the back face coloring, then this looks a little better. Then we add in a subdivision. Slows everything down. Maybe we put like a smooth. Let's see about moving it up and down instead of rotating the driver, right? So let's do this. And let's see about it moving up and down. Oh, I guess it'll just have to move continually. Because if it goes up and down, it kind of like repeats, huh? Interesting. What if we inverse the smooth, not the smooth, the masking? So we'll start from the top. So what is it? Plus 21. So we'll do frame divided by 100. We'll put that in parentheses. Plus 21. Oh my god, I did this wrong. Frame. Frame. Divided by 50. Plus 21. Actually, we should do divided by 5. So it's going upwards, right? And then we have to what is this? Put everything in parentheses and times it by -1. Oh no, we should just put negative at the end. How can you know how to get this result? Is it all trial and error? And when you get a cool result, can you replicate it by memory or a save file? Jim PA Animations. Thank you for asking that question. So how do you know, how do you get this result? And is all trial and error. So to get the result, right, is all about, it is trial and error, right? But you have to know the general concepts, right? So the concept would be like let me see if I could just start quickly from scratch here. So the concept is just knowing the material. So you have a material, I mean you have a shape, you do the material, blah blah blah, you add it, you know that you're always going to use an emissions, you know that you're always going to use bloom, which is selected. So you know you get an emissions, you put it in, you know, you do a mix shader. I'm just gonna do this really quick just so you see, because these are you'll be doing this the same way all the time, right? So shader, you do a transparent, blah blah blah, there you go. You make sure that this is on alpha clip, you know, then what you know is that you have something emitting and something transparent. You know, you put a texture in to do that, so like a texture or a Fresnel, and then you just trial and error, and then you just go, and then you just add stuff and don't add stuff. So the list that I have you know, and then a lot of color ramp. So you'll be using the same stuff all the time, right? You're going to be using this. You're going to be using Mix RGB, color ramp, Fresnel, emissions, Voronoi textures, mapping, and layer-ways. And you just keep doing that, testing out different things, mixing different materials, making different masks to mask between emissions and transparent. Once you have that material down, right? Then what you're doing is you're trying to get like, see, once you have the material down, then what you're doing is using once you have the material down, now you're just using modifiers, right? And the modifiers, this is the material without anything, right? This is just glowing, it's super bright, and like, you know, we could take it down and bring it to nothing. This is just what it looks like. Then you brighten it up, put some things on it. This is when you add the vertex proximity. If you were watching earlier, you mask things out, you smooth it, and then you simplify, and then you twist it, and that's it. And then you just trial and error. And how do you get to put that color label in the nodes? So the color label, so this label here is in the nodes itself. So you hit Shift A, you go to layout, and it's called a frame. So you put the frame, and then if you have like other different stuff, like you just put it inside the frame and it'll automatically become part of it. You can see it starts becoming part of it, and you can stretch it out. And then in the end menu, you can hit you can label it and call it something like blah blah blah, and then you can make it big, and then you can change the color here and stuff, and then that's how you do it. And yeah, like what Jiraj says, a lot of this is not like you memorizing exactly how to do something. What you're doing is that you're understanding the tools that you have, right? And then you're playing with those tools, right? Because I can even start making an effect right now. So once, let me duplicate this. We'll just make another one right now, just for fun. Take these off. Take these off. So yeah, so once you figure out your material, right? And for these type of energy effects, usually you're going to be mixing between emissions and transparency. And then you're making a mask to tell it where to make it transparent. So this is where I'm making it look transparent. Right? So the white, I guess this looks like ridiculous. So yeah, you're making textures and masks. I don't want to overcomplicate it. Once you have your material down using all the color and then the textures, then that's when you use modifiers and you just play with stuff. Like you just stack them on top of each other. Like, oh, what if I add a displacement, right? And I put a texture on it. Oh, that looks cool. You know, like awesome. What if I put the strength down? Oh, that looks... And if you hold shift, you can affect it like very subtly. What if I did another texture? You know, what if I make it bigger, right? So what is this? Size. So boom, now I got like this bumpy looking effect, right? Cool. You know, what else can I do to this, right? So then there's another effect, right? You just play with all these modifiers. You'll go to simple disform. You do twist, and look, I can just twist this up. Now I got like this looking effect, or I can do it on the Z axis. And this is like looking like weird and stuff. Mess with the settings in the materials, backface culling, right? Show backface, you know. And then yeah, and then from what Jiraj says, you can also make your own nodes called node groups, which is pretty much how it sounds. You make a group. Yeah, so once you have something that you're always going to use, you know, like something that is always going to be the same thing, right? So if it was like this texture here, I could just select all this, hit Control G, and now if I hit Tab, this is the node group. This is it. I could just reuse this all the time, right? Like I can hit Shift A, and you can go to Group, and you can see node group is there. It's called node group because that's what it's called here, but I can call it like texture, right? So this is the texture that I made for this like type of material, right? And it's a node group. If you want to see what's inside, you hit tab, you go inside of it, right? And then here it is. And if you want to keep using it, you can use it in different places. So it becomes simpler. You duplicate it, you put it in different places. But yeah, so definitely like play around with like mixing up with materials and stuff. Let me go back. Let's see. There was some other material stuff I wanted to cover. And I gotta think of it. All right, let's give like a scrolling texture another shot here. All right, so let's do it. Let's make a plane. And let's go to rendered mode. Let's give it a material. I'm gonna call it scrolling texture. Let's see if we can make something useful. I'm just winging it. This may not end up anywhere. That's the whole process of this, you know? It's just you playing around. We got the material. Principal shader. Let's add an emissions shader. Q, emissions, connected. It's white. Beautiful. Let's do a mix shader. We're gonna mix right now between black and white. So black and white. Right now it's between gray. So let's do this. Cool. Let's add a Verone texture. Let's just make another one. Let's see if we can make something else. I don't know. Verone texture. There we go. Now it's going between black and white. Let's mess with the texture. Add in a color ramp. Yeah, it can definitely be a bit frustrating if you have something you want in your mind, but once you figure out more about the material, you should be able to stumble your way through it. It just takes a little time, you know? It just takes time. Cool, so we have our material here. Great, let's hopefully this works out. See, this may not work out. It's the risk. It's the risk. Okay, so let's see if we could do one final thing for this stream. It's already 6, so I gotta get on with my life. Maybe a little longer. See if we can make a good material here. All right, so we have the texture. Great. Now this texture is just black and white. Let's see if we can mix it, right? So we'll do mix RGB, and we're gonna mix 2 textures. With this one, we're going to do a gradient. With a Shift S, change it to gradient. You can find it. Very cool. Right? And if I remember correctly, I was doing this wrong, because it kind of mixes it in between. What I should be doing is putting this at the top here. Making this white. I'm never gonna say, I'm just kidding. So let's make this black. We'll hit Control T. This is where we can affect this gradient. Go. Let's go 90. Negative 90, I mean. There we go. We got our texture going. Actually, let's do 90. Oh no, negative 90, and let's flip the colors here. There we go. So our gradient's at the top. Good stuff. And know that you can also use math nodes to do stuff with these textures, right? So let's do a math node. A math node I like to use. Let me organize this better. Anyway, a math node I like to use is power. This kind of adds some power to it. Really makes the gradient there. Cool. So we got this texture being a gradient. So let's see if we can add another texture. And this is what you keep doing, right? You just keep adding in texture. So we'll have my Voronoi texture, we have our gradient, and they're mixing in. Now we'll use another mix. Put this at the top here. Make this white. There's white. Bring it down. We'll add in another texture. Let's add in a Voronoi texture, but we're gonna distort it. Do distance. Alright, we're gonna add a color ramp. See, we're just using the same thing over and over again. Color ramps, distortions. And we'll hit Control T. We'll add in a texture there. We'll bring it up. And just to see what's happening just on this particular texture, we'll add it here. Looks kind of crazy. But we're going to stretch this out. There we go. Now we'll go back to our regular texture here. Do add, maybe multiply. Maybe flip these. Yeah, I definitely think it should just be this. We'll hit add, we'll hit some value. Right now I'm just playing around, seeing what works. We'll add in a movement on the Y here. So we'll hit frame divided frame divided by 50. We'll add in a negative up in front, and we will divide it by 10 only because I want it fast and I want it upwards. There we go. This is what it looks like stretched. Maybe it looks better this way. Like there's like a flame going on. This is what it looks like unstretched. You know, and you're just messing around with these textures and you're adding them on top of each other. Just adding. You know, we could try different ones. Like that one looks like kind of cool. These sparkle ones look kind of fun. There we go. Here we go. We're adding, so that's looking fun. All right. We'll mess with. This is our gradient. I just messed that up. But we're messing with the Voronoi. There it is. Add a texture to it. Same thing. We will add in the same thing. We'll do a frame divided by 50. It is not moving. Let's try this again. Frame. There it is. Divided by 50. It's going the wrong way, so we'll put negative up in front. There we go. Maybe divided by 40. Yeah, learning about materials makes VFX part come on top. Like your first year uni, I had serious doubts if I did the right choice by going into animation study and not VFX. There we go. Cool. And we'll also add in the same thing. We'll do a hashtag frame divided by 50. There we go. Now we got like this bubbling effect. That's fun. Maybe we could do the same thing with this stretched. So we'll do the same thing. So there's a lot of frame in here. Frame divided by 50. Maybe it should be better faster. Maybe not. Maybe 20, and then we'll see about it being stretched out. Right? So you can see the effect that is happening on here. It's like extra bubbly. Alright, let's see if we could do a magic texture instead. Maybe that look better. That looks ridiculous, but you know, this is kind of like an interesting look here. It looks kind of flamey. Adding these textures looks trippy though. So maybe magic texture. Let's try a point texture. No, not point density. How about a wave texture? So let's put the rings. It looks like scan lines, which is pretty cool. So this you could probably do some like neat holographic effects and stuff. There we go. Just so you can see what this looks like by itself. This is what it looks like with the wave, with this going off, it being a Rin texture, and that's what it looks like. We can put some more distortion on it. That's fun. Right, shift click, we'll go back to it. It's a little too strong actually, so let's put the distortion down, or the scale maybe, and let's put the distortion down. There it is. Oh man, if you put the detail up, it kind of looks like a flames. There we go. So we got this texture down, and see, and now we have what looks like a crazy setup, but really we have just 3 textures going on. We have our wave texture that's here at the top, mixing in. We have our bubble texture. Oh no, we have our texture that's texturing the bubbles that we were having fly upwards. And then we have the bubbles itself, right? So let's look at all these individually, because I already have something that looks pretty decent, maybe like flames or something like that, or some sort of work, but it looks really awesome, right? So let's go one by one. So first texture, it's just this bubble effect, right? Just this bubble effect. Second texture is this texture, which you can't even see. It's a gradient. It's just too bright. Maybe I can show it here. There it is. So the texture is just a gradient, right? So it's this bubble effect that's just this Voronoi texture. Then I have the gradient texture, and then this is what makes it disappear from the top, right? When you mix them together, it doesn't look like anything. But then it ends up looking like something. So since they're all mixing with each other, they all are like not visible individually, right? I have to like move the settings for you to see them. Like, so yeah, the Voronoi texture, these little bubbles, gradient texture. It's making it appear and disappear back to front. And then this texture, which is the wave texture with some like details in the front, right? And then that's all mixed in to do this, right? So now it looks like it fades at the top because that's because I have the gradient going on and stuff. And you can even add more to the gradient so it doesn't look like it's just all fading off in one direction or like that easily and stuff. So I now have this like flame texture going on, right? So now that that's all there, right? Now, instead of being black, because this can be any color, by the way, right? You know, instead of it being black, I'll make it transparent. So let's put a transparent shader instead of it being black. And then now we have to change some settings. Right? Because in the settings, we have to change the blend mode to alpha clip. Or is it alpha blend? It's alpha blend. Right? So now you got like the smoke texture going on, right? And if you brighten it up, like this is going on, right? Great. Right, and you can obviously change this color to be whatever color you want. So it could be like a blue color or whatever. And then you can even get into the texturing, you know, I mean, changing the colors of this. Let's see if I can do it right now. Hopefully I can. So I just did Control T. We're adding a color ramp. And let's see if I can change the colors. There we go. I love these colors as always. We can make it brighter, right? Then a little trick here is if you hit hue saturation, you can actually like really bring up the values here. Bring it up to 2. You can double the values, or you can put it super saturated. It's up to you. I like to add that in there. And we got super saturated, super nice, right? So, right, cool. I have this texture, kind of cool, or whatever. And let's see what I can do with it, right? So let's see if I can move this on the X by 1. And let's cut this up a bunch of times. We'll Control R and we'll cut it up a bunch of times here. I could have just subdivided it. Maybe I just should have subdivided it. And then we'll use a bend simple deform. And we'll do a bend on the Z-axis. 360 degrees. Now we got this going on. All right. So now, you know, we got this. Obviously, you could see a difference here because we're connecting that seam. So there's different ways to get rid of the seam. Right now, I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm just showing you guys what this looks like. Without the color, you just have it be blue, and it could just be this. Jarash says, how would it look like applied to a cube? Let's find out. What is my material card? Scrolling. Let's add in a cube. Bring it to the side here, and let's add it. Scrolling. So there, we got like this cube effect that's like, I don't know, flaming. It's going in all different directions. And then you could change backface culling, so you can't see like behind, like what's behind the material. So change off backface culling, and then you just kind of have like this cube just going at it, looking fun. Or yeah, there you go. If you put alpha clip, it's kind of interesting. Alpha blend though is like the way it works. This is pretty cool here. And maybe the screw modifier. Yeah, let's try the screw modifier. Let's play around here. So we'll take off this modifier and let's put in the screw modifier. That's an interesting look there. Let's see. interesting is that this effect only works like a certain range. You know, there we go. There's a screen modifier. Let's see if we can do something interesting here. You know, for this, we can just rotate it on the X. You know, bring it in. Rotate it on the X the other way. You know, we can even, like, in the edit mode, multiply these. Rotate them in different ways. You know, add in, like, some weird tornado stuff. Right? I can erase these. But what I want to fix right now, though, what I'd like to fix right now is see if I can make it transparent both ways. So I'm gonna add another mix, and this is just me playing around again. We're gonna add in another transparency, right? And what we're gonna be doing is, where's the gradient texture? This is the gradient texture that I had before. We'll duplicate it. And this is how these things get so unruly, guys. And then now we have a gradient. If we flip the gradient, and this is just me playing around. I'm not sure what's gonna happen here. Like, we can probably reverse it. There we go. All right, and then I can rotate this whole thing by the x-axis 180. You know, and I can go and then I can apply this simple deform, right? So hit apply. So now we have this gradient that kind of like fades off into the distance. You know, let's see if we can then change, instead of this UV here, this color UV, we'll do object. There you go. And then this gradient, we'll also do object. And then we're gonna figure out if we can do it up and down instead of, it's going left to right now. Let's see if we can. Yeah, so -90 on the Y. And then we can move it on the Y. Can't we? There we go. The issue is that everything's fading off so perfectly at the top here, right? So you want to add in some jagged edges for, like, you know, the top of the gradient. So if we're looking at the gradient, this is what that looks like. It looks weird because what we're doing is we're seeing the back face there. So we want this white to have some more jaggies on it. So we got the gradient that's making it transition away, and then we're gonna grab it. We're gonna bring in a mix RGB one more time. There we go. We'll bring in a white. Bring this to white. And then in 2, we're just gonna keep going. And using group nodes are going to help you a lot here. So for this gradient, we're going to add in a moose grave texture. Let's see what this looks like. There it is. You can't tell what's happening right now, but you'll see it once we apply it. There you go. Take that off. And then this is just me messing around with, you know, where the stuff is going. Let's see what this looks like. It's probably not gonna look great. Right? And then hold on, let's see what. Whoa! Looking ridiculous. All right. Still messing around, trying to figure out how we can add in. This should be working there. Okay, what we can do is let's figure out with Mix RGB, and this is me just figuring out what we can do here. Add, subtract maybe. Subtract. This feels closer, right? All right. But I want this on the opposite side, so it should be add, right? It's never easy, guys. It's never easy. It's just me playing around. Multiply, mix. All right, so now let's see what this is looking like. We hit subtract. While it's going, add. Oh, this is not even being mixed in, guys. Wow, I have not been mixing it in, and now we're out of whack here. Let's go to mix. Look at these neon colors. Man, the neon light, so chill. Gotta go, having sleep. See you soon, man. All right, take care. I'm gonna end the stream now, but yes, take care. Thank you, Jiraj, for hanging out. Thanks for my 5 viewers out there. Think after this, I figure out what is happening here. Yo, these neon lights are ridiculous. Add, mix. Go back to Veroni. Add some. Make sure we add in a color ramp. We'll add in our hashtag here, frame divided by 20, 30. Add a negative in front. There we go. Track, what if we made this dark? Or what we did add. Yo, add is always ridiculous. Do some add. Let's scale it up. Anyway, I think that's it, guys. I think hopefully you enjoyed this stream. I added some stuff, messed with some materials. Hopefully you learned some concepts when it involves you know, different materials and different things, where it involves using, like, you know, layer weights, using orbs, using materials as in like modifiers with the vertex groups. Hopefully this all was somewhat helpful for you guys. We covered a lot here. You know, we have like these energy balls and these force fields, and these like icicle things, and like these materials that move, you know. Like, hopefully that all was fun for you. Thanks again for another great stream. Learn lots. Susan, thank you for hanging out and coming every Saturday. Appreciate the rest of you guys doing this and being here. I hope everyone has a great weekend and a great day and a great everything. Let me go into my ending screen. Do I have an ending screen? I have an ending screen, right? Yes. So I do this every Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I try to cover topics that are interesting. So thank you, Jiraj. He's not here. Susan, Marco, Ferd, Evelyn, anybody who's out there watching, I appreciate it. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.